And Muzz got mad at me, the coach said, he goes, Jesus Christ, why don't you just work 2 nights? And I went, okay.
Please never do that.
Yep. So.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 466 of Spittin' Chicklets, presented by Pink Whitney from our friends at New Amsterdam Vodka here in the Barstool Sports Podcast family. What is up, everyone? The season has started. Lots to talk about. We're in Boston, got the gang together once again, 2 weeks in a row recording together. Let's start it. Paul, Biz Nasty, Bissonette, the traveling man, what's shaking?
All right, you're fucking humming right now. This might be the best start to the season I've ever seen this guy have.
He's feeling himself. And
he looks good,
I
too.
love it. I
Hopefully
love
don't
it.
peak too early.
Look good. Maybe almost put a little weight back on
I
as
definitely
opposed
did,
because
yeah.
you went through that huge weight loss without working out or anything, which was somehow a miracle. But
Anxiety.
yeah, I got to pump your tires too. Well, Biz, go ahead. What have you been up to?
No, I want to hear this story you got.
So I went to the BU U.S. National Development Program game Saturday night, and USNDTP put a beat down on my Terriers. 8-1, dude.
Cole Iserman Hattie.
Cole Iserman is a freak. I'll say that, like, the team, BU's had a little tough start. They lost to UNH Friday night, then they had the exhibition, kind of a tough showing. Their 2 backups played, so it wasn't the starter, but it's a little bit of a rough start in terms of being number 1 preseason, but a lot of hockey left. You'd rather have it happen now than in March.
So you jump on the wagon and
Don't
all
even
this.
bring it up. Don't even bring it up. Well, I said I'm going to end up getting fired and be like George Costanza. I don't even work here. So no, it's the story's more about after the game. Matt Gilroy, who's a good buddy of mine, he played in the NHL a while and in Europe
With Tampa, right?
Yeah, he was with Tampa. He's with Florida. He's with a bunch of different teams, and then he was at BU after me. But then when I was over in the KHL, he was playing over there. So whenever we'd play each other, we'd have dinner and stuff like that. He's now the assistant coach of the under-18 team with Ryan Bork, who's Ray Bork's son, Chris's brother. They're the 2 assistants, and got to meet the head coach and talk to the team a little bit. I just went in and just talked to him for about a minute, and then went around and shook everyone's hand. And as I'm walking out, they said, "Where's RA?" But a couple guys yelled it. And I said, "Holy shit, you guys RA fans?" They're like, "Fucking rights, we're RA fans. We got to meet that guy." I said, "This guy is buzzing
So
right
even
now."
the kids love him.
The kids love him. And then after, I was talking to 4 or 5 of them just for 10 minutes, and they were just asking me all about RA, asking me where he came from, what his story is. They need to meet him.
What
they
if
want him on. They want him on.
they bring RA
They
in?
want him on Sandbaggers. I said, Jesus Christ, these kids, they didn't even want to talk to me. They were like, get the fuck out of here. Where is the rear admiral?
Giving you the dead fish. Where's rear? It's like, buddy, shake my fucking hand.
Won't even look me in the
They
eye.
sniff his fingers
And then
before
they're
they
like,
shake your hand
how
properly.
did he get the name Rear Admiral? I was like, we'll leave that one out. I saw the coach looking at me, but no, it's the season of RA.
Yeah.
The guy's coming out hot. I mean, he's got those, I don't know what's next to him right there. They look like a
Those
couple
Kleenex?
Yeah, the Kleenex. That's okay. So as long as there aren't boogers on there.
Oh, sorry, no boogers, just a little.
All right. Well, it's just needless to say, you're feeling yourself,
You're buzzing.
and I love it. All right.
Big gambling Sunday yesterday, too.
Yeah. Of course, I didn't post any of it, but I've been so bad. I'm not going to post more losers. But I think it seems like the more I post, the more I lose. Yeah. I had a pretty nice day. Pretty much all football too, which is American.
Isn't it an Asian thing where they have the year of the tiger, the year of the dragon?
Chinese.
I think every year is a year. Like the year, there's a
Chinese
year of
New
the
Year.
rat. I'm always like, that ain't a great year.
Nah, snitches.
I mean, if you're born, like your year's the year of the rat.
Yeah, not
that's
great.
what I'm going to be.
That's what when Grinelli was born. Year of the
When's
rat.
year of
The
war-
year of Splinter?
Year of the warthog.
Yeah, the year of the warthog. That's this year. This year
Yeah.
is the year of the hog.
Next up, the Wit Dog, Ryan Whitney.
Well, I never really said what I've
sorry.
been up to.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. How was TNT, buddy?
I felt like I was in a car accident after the 2 days at Chicklets Cup, 4 games.
It's not even. Yeah, it's not.
hard. We need a little bit of cushion on the pavement. We got to get that sport court, man. My knees and
we need
ankles are just in shambles. Still dwelling over the loss in the semifinals. Definitely talking amongst the
not.
team. No, but I am a little bit. I'm embarrassed. Like people even
should
online are like, buddy, you stopped drinking and you train for a month and you can't even get out of the fucking semifinals.
No,
It's embarrassing.
One quote
It's
was like,
embarrassing.
"Yeah, like, dude, you haven't drank. All you do is work out. This was like the year of Big Deal Selects, and then you lost to a bunch of plumbers and carpenters that never work out and drink all the time. So it was a pretty good point.
So after some more thought and a great interview with Kevin Dahlman, which will be dropping probably in the next month, I think next year we're going to roll the same lineup, but we're bringing in the Russian gas. He went
Okay,
to, he went to the KHL. You've had your experiment with it. I think that if we have the Russian gas, it will help with our old legs and help us cruise at least to the finals for a rematch against Nose Face, because that's what the people wanted and they were let down. Aside from that, got over it, got to go home for a night, see my folks, and then it was off to TNT and a great first broadcast. We had the 5-man panel going, got to hang out with Wayne and Hank, and it was cool because we got to watch Bedard, who's now, you know, one of the faces of the league and going to be this generational talent. Great start for him, and I'm sure we're going to get into it, but also to hear Wayne's thoughts on it, because he went through that exact same process of coming in and mic in your face, all attention, all eyes on you. And so to get that broadcast there and then to talk about mushrooms later on in it was a dream come true.
I was laughing out loud on my coach. I'm like, I think this guy will never ever be told what he can and cannot say, because he's talking about microdosing with the great one right now on TNT. It was so good.
I don't even think he knew what that was when I said it. I don't think it, you know.
Dun, dun, dun.
But briefly, what you just said. So Kevin Dahlman, I don't know when he'll drop, but
Yeah.
I'll just maybe tee everyone up and preface it with the most in-depth, like 5 to 6 minute description of Russian gas. We've always talked about it. I think so many people are interested in that aspect of the KHL. He went into a deep dive on exactly how it goes down, the feelings they had, some funny stories of other guys doing it. So whenever that drops, you'll be interested in that one.
No, it was a great.
What's wild is like the different ways. We've heard the Russian gas being ingested like four different ways over the years, like a shot, like the gas mask, whatever he described. We won't spoil. Like it seems like you could,
I was my gas example was the IV, which I think was just
I don't even
speed.
think the doctors over there know. They're just experimenting
No,
with
yeah.
you.
They're like they got a broomstick and a huge bowl and they're just
like
Dr.
like-
Kevorkian.
like a
He's
frat.
fucking going to town. It's legit. Like, who's the guy from Breaking Bad?
Walter White.
Walter
Walter
White.
White. They're
Yeah.
just mixing it up rando in the back. And
But they dress like Jesse Pinkman.
yeah.
Fraternity mixing like cuckoo juice for their frat party.
Yeah.
So take a shot of that. The Wit Dog, Ryan
Yeah.
Whitney. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. As Biz said, I mean, coming off Ireland, Rome, and then, you know, Chicklets Cup, it was one of those things where I got home, felt horrific. And, you know, any parent out there will tell you, you come back from like a guy's trip, or for any of you ladies come back from a girl's trip, you're just pushed right in. You know, it's like, all right, you got it's kid time. And so I came home and I was just a wounded man, I'll say. Now, the problem is I was texting my friend, I can't stop drinking. I'm on a little bit of what they call a bender right now. And that pretty much started in Ireland, into Rome, into Chicklets Cup. And now I'm home every night. Like I'm opening up a bottle of wine.
Well, you're Mr. Pink Whitney too. It's hard, right?
Pouring some Pink Whitney. Yeah, my face is going to be the official color of the bottle very soon, like permanently. So it's one of those things when you're on just like drinking a lot, it's hard to get off of it.
Yeah.
So I think right after you guys leave, so Wednesday morning, because I'm not going to stop like tonight and tomorrow because we're all here.
Right.
Wednesday morning, I will just do that like week cold sober, start eating better. I haven't had a salad in a month. So I'm feeling pretty gross and feeling pretty shitty about myself. But you guys cheer me up. You make me feel better. And looking at these bottles of Pink Whitney, I do want to pour myself a drink right now.
It's another thing too. I think Max Homa sent a tweet out a couple days ago and he goes, there's something about when you go on a trip with your buddies too, where you hope to maybe take it easy at some point, maybe sleep in a little bit, especially if you have kids, to catch
Not
up on.
for 1 second, do you?
You just go full throttle and you put your body to the limit.
You need a vacation when you get home from the vacation. And at this point now, the anxiety of going home and like dealing with life again is worse than the excitement leading up to the trip.
Yeah.
Like maybe that shows I'm 40.
How many
going on
times have you
60.
contemplated just running away and buying a second passport, going Jason Bourne off the grid?
Well, I could barely get a U.S. passport to even leave originally. So getting another one, I don't think that's possible. But
Okay.
yeah, I have a buddy who even said he went on a 3-night guys trip over to Nantucket. And then, you know, Saturday night, it was supposed to be, you know, the last night. He just kind of like quietly took off. He's like, I was done. I just went home.
He tapped out
Yeah,
early.
and then he got the old,
Yeah.
like, and then you're the hero when you get home. Right? Like, oh my God, you came home early. So it's kind of a win-win. You get away
Your
from
old
the
lady's getting
madness.
thumped.
Yeah, that's the problem. You walk in and you walk into a gangbang, as they said in old school. Was that old school?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to have the season going more than anything. And I think that having the games just all of a sudden every night. Now, obviously Sundays, unfortunately for Biz, there's only 2 games, maybe 1 game. He wants a full slate during NFL Sunday.
Fuck off.
But I just love you got the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday night, like 7 to 10 to 12 games, and you're just watching all night. The next morning, the ones you miss, you watch the NHL.com. And I'll get into the NHL
app.
No. I'm going to save it because there's too much positivity in this room and around this league right now. So we'll get into that later. The NHL.com little 5-minute recaps of games is awesome for the ones you miss. You see all the goals, you see all the big hits. So at least if you don't catch a game that night, you can watch the next morning.
The Jays do a Jays in 30. The whole game in 30 minutes. Now, does like
the
Boston,
Bruins do?
Bruins
Nesson does the. I think it's Bruins in 2 hours though, or maybe an hour. Where that's not the whole game, but you see pretty much everything. But yeah, 30 minutes is way better than 2 hours.
I don't want to get too far off topic. I was watching a clip of Jack Edwards about the tissue comment. Did you see his most latest?
I can't believe he's still announcing. It's all set.
Like some
I don't
of the
know
stuff,
how he's still announcing.
I'm obsessed with it though, because the clips are amazing. You get a good chuckle. But as a Bruins fan, like how many times throughout the course of a 3-hour broadcast are you left shaking your head?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a Jack guy. He's a homer. They're all homers, but there's clearly something amiss, and it's likely medical. I doubt he's impaired on there, and they're letting him work in that.
Well,
I thought last year there was rumors it was it. Like there was almost, he was so bad that they're like, they might be making a change. And I guess they decided not to.
Apparently, and I've heard this. I don't know. I can't confirm it, but they put him at a different side of the hotel when they're on the road because he loves to rip the bong. Like he loves the weed. Have you guys heard that?
Yeah, from you about 2 years ago.
Okay, all right. So I've created this rumor in my head that Jack I would love to rip the bong with him and get him on the podcast for a sit down. That's a public invite to Jack Edwards if he ends up catching wind that we want him on. Would you guys be cool with that?
100%.
Would you rip the bong with him?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Might
good.
be the longest episode ever, but and he's not beholden to give us his medical, situation.
No,
it's just that like I said in the tech, it's it's an NHL team, it's a professional team, and it's a tough standard to keep up to, and he's been struggling lately. And I mean, I wish him the best, but
I was told they're going to give him a lot of nights off this year.
Okay,
the years past.
Do they know who the other guy would be?
Faust, the kid from Northeastern, jumped in a few times during the preseason.
Alex Faust, the play-by-play guy.
Yeah, he was great.
He's incredible.
He was awesome.
How do you know him?
Alex, he was with the Kings.
Yeah.
And he still is, right? Or maybe he moved over to baseball. I think actually something happened with Bally's, so he had to move on. But he worked with TNT a little bit last year. He's one of the bright young voices in the game.
So why did you say, what do you mean Northeastern?
I think he went to Northeastern.
Oh, I thought you meant he was like doing games.
No, I'm pretty sure he did play-by-play at Northeastern back in the day.
Yeah.
So I'd know him if I saw him or heard his voice.
Now, speaking of play-by-play guys, we do have an amazing guest on our hands for today's show. A pretty good natural segue there. I'll leave it to you, R.A.
Took the words right out of my mouth. Kenny Albert, he has a book coming out, A Mic for All Seasons, the only announcer in North America that's currently calling all 4 major sports. Terrific guy. He's been with Fox for like 30 years, I think. One of the best in the game. Kenny Albert.
Sean McDonough's not doing all 4?
Apparently not right at the moment.
He does hockey with the ESPN, right? He does college football. Maybe he doesn't do the NFL. Sorry. Well, I just thought of other guys who I've seen and heard doing 4 different sports. But yeah, Kenny Albert, what an interview this is. I mean, he's just been around so many legends of all these different sports that it was great hearing his stories, and obviously raised by a legend in terms of Marv Albert. So it was a blast catching up with him.
And just such a classy guy and such an easy guy to work with. Everybody loves him. Like the dinners they get to have on the road with that crew with Edzo. Well, it used to be Jonesy too. They would have tons of laughs. Now they got Boosh in the mix. So just an unbelievable guy to work with and a true professional, and never doesn't have a smile on his face. He's just happy to be doing what he does. And we appreciate him and his time, and congratulations to him and not only his career, but this book coming out, and keep humming, Kenny. You're the man, Kenny.
Yeah, I bumped into him with Bees game last week. Said hello to him.
Oh, did you?
Between periods. Yeah, he is a great guy. Can't leave out our producer, Mikey Grinelli. What's going on, big guy?
Not a lot for me, but a lot for Chicklets. Big couple weeks for Chicklets here. We got the Big Deal Selects video dropping on Wednesday. The following Wednesday after that, we have the first episode of Chicklets TV. So Chicklets TV is going to be a new rebrand on how we film behind the scenes and kind of everyday life of Chicklets. After that, the next Wednesday after that, we have a Sandbagger. Jack Eichel, Noah Hannafin, featuring RA.
And fans got their wish. RA's in this one too.
Some of them did, I guess.
He's physically there.
Yeah.
By the end, I don't necessarily know if mentally he's all there, but it was still a time and a half.
I'll apologize now. I was filming RA. The camera is definitely going to be shaky with how hard I was laughing.
Okay.
He had me going he had me laughing as hard as I've ever laughed on that. I think it was the 16th or 17th hole.
And the BU kids got their wish. So last one, we posted a video in the midst of the Getzlav Bieksa one, and people were wanting RA to get in the mix as far as shooting. Well, this one we had one of the rules. We get these lifelines, right? Redo a shot. What are the other ones too? Like one club hole.
Yeah.
So there was a point where each team could have RA shoot one of the other opponent's shot, and that was implemented, and things got very interested. So we got a lot coming.
Disappoint.
We got a lot coming to the Spit and Chicklets YouTube channel. We're actually sitting at 299,000 subscribers right now, so we're almost about to hit the 300,000 plateau. Thank you to everybody who follows. And yeah, as G said, if you want an inside look of what goes on in the Big Deal Selects locker room and all the drama and all the banter, make sure you stay tuned in the next couple weeks for that rollout.
Yeah, I was just taking Witt's order. He said, Ari, get buckled and do something. So I took his orders and did something. So great time. I can't wait for it to drop.
Before we continue, guys, I need to know, do you think any of your friends are the ultimate life of the party? If so, you can nominate them and you could win a Pink Whitney New York City trip. One lucky winner will receive an epic New York City trip for them and 3 friends, complete with a tour of Barstool headquarters. 10 secondary prize winners will receive Pink Whitney party packs with everything you and your crew need to take your shot and throw the ultimate house party. It's easy to enter. Just go to pinkwhitney.com to enter your info. Nominate your life of the party friend and describe how they always make the party next level for a chance to win the ultimate Pink Whitney NYC trip. And of course, make sure to head on over to your local bar and order up some Pink Whitney.
Boys, let's talk some hockey.
Let's do it.
Connor Bedard, obviously that's the big story everywhere. His first game, they beat the Penguins 4-2. He got an assist in his first game. He had 21 minutes, 29 seconds, 10 shot attempts, 5 on net. That iconic photo of him and Sid at the face-off, that's going to be in the Hall of Fame. How about Kelly Sutherland, though? Have you ever heard a ref say something like that before, guys, with generational talents about to square off? I thought that was one of the coolest
Last year they started that.
Yeah, like let's get it on.
It was even like goofier last year, I think. I don't remember exactly who the ref was or what was said, but it was a little. And then this year he actually like personally said, well, I think he said, welcome to the NHL, Con, or something like that.
Yeah.
And Sid's like, drop the fucking puck.
Yeah.
And Sid won the face off.
He worked them. So I don't know if we talked about this last podcast or maybe it was in the group chat, but Kobe Armstrong, who works with us, does game notes. I don't know when the next one's coming out, hopefully soon, but he went there for NHL Media Tour with Sportsnet, and they actually did some fun face-off thing between Sid and Bedard had beat Sid. So this is what was the I took it personally moment where I don't think, at least through the first 2 periods, Bedard hadn't touched the puck in the face-off circle. Lost every single fucking
Did
draw.
you see the clip of him mic'd up going up to the ref being like, I can't beat him. He's like, I haven't won a face-off. I haven't even come close to beating him yet.
And don't put it past Sid in the competition preseason.
Oh, yeah.
Just be like, I'm going to let him have a couple.
Mental
I know
warfare.
I got him first night. I'm not going to show him my A stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to show him my C- stuff and then just snap him back on him.
I'm surprised he didn't give him a fucking bag tap off the opening one, right in the junk. Just whoosh.
I'll say this though, that I'd only seen Connor Bedard play World Juniors, and I remember seeing him play under 18. It was in like Frisco, Texas. It might have been under 17. So I knew about the goal scoring, but I always kind of thought of him as just a straight up pure goal scorer, which he is, you can tell. I didn't know, like my first thought after the Penguins game is like, he's all that. Like it's the creativity, carrying to the neutral zone. Didn't know he was that good, like kind of a human breakout in terms of getting it and just immediately creating space for himself. The hands, the vision, like he could have had in that first game 5-6 points.
Yeah, he was around the blue paint a little bit too.
He was like, he basically, the first NHL game you see him, you're wondering, you're like, this is a guy who's going to get 80 points this year. I think he's going to have a point per game if he's healthy, no doubt.
Yep.
I think that he's going to be a 100-point guy, 50, 60 goal guy. Like he is actually as good as advertised. And I know some people are like, oh, wasn't that impressive? Like
Whoa,
that
they didn't
age,
watch.
you didn't watch close enough because he looks like a seasoned vet out there minus the face-offs. And the game comes so naturally easy to him. Added to the fact that he's a psycho in terms of being a professional, his diet, no drinking, all the things we've talked about.
Yeah.
It is a generational talent that I cannot wait to see play the entire year out.
I think most players who come into the NHL soon realize face-offs is one of the hardest things to get.
Sid was brutal at the beginning.
Sid was not very good. And then also you tend to get a little bit more of the advantage when you're a vet in the face-off circle. I remember when I was picked up by Phoenix and we played San Jose so much, Thornton's stick would literally be in the middle of the face-off and he was playing tummy sticks with the linesman where Boyd Gordon would have to take draws against him and be like, what the fuck is going on out here? Where Joe was just laughing, cruising up ice, knowing that he gets to cheat a little. But overall, they released the analytic numbers as far as how many times he was carrying the puck out of his own end, as you mentioned, like a one-man breakout, how many zone entries, and just really poised with the puck. Probably the one thing that stands out right now is maybe for how small he is, the lack of speed, where he seems to be normal speed compared to everybody else. But that'll come also with age. But you could tell he's so smart at getting into the areas where he can expose certain passing lanes. So the brain and the neurological play is really where I'm so impressed for how young he is right now. And you mentioned quickly, sorry, the point of game. Sucks that he's now lost Halsey.
Halsey's playing tonight, buddy.
He's playing. They said he was week to week or month to month.
And that Brandon Carlo ran him over in the second game against Boston.
Upper
and
body.
he went off and it looked like one of those shoulders because he's kind of had his arm to his side. I was like, fuck,
like
Halsey.
an AC joint or something.
And then apparently I just was listening to the radio that he's going to be going tonight. So look, that is huge for not only like Bedard, but the entire Blackhawks team. And how about the stat of Halsey? I think you said, what is it? He's assisted on like 5 first overall picks, first goals.
Yeah,
so he's been associated to teams who have had the first overall pick, 5 times?
I got it right here. Yeah, well, Bedard scored his first against the Bruins. 2010 number 1 overall pick. Taylor Hall got an assist on it. He's now assisted on the first goal for 4 different number 1 overall picks. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Nico Hischier, Jack Hughes, and now Connor Bedard. That's insanity, right?
And he could have had McDavid's, I'm sure.
He did a little media today, and he said, this is interesting because I know you wanted to talk about this. He said it can be a little, in regards to Connor Bedard, he said it can be a little much at times. He doesn't say it, but we all feel like it is.
This is Halsey?
Yeah, it's Taylor Hall.
Okay, so this is another
talking
topic.
about the media and constantly being bombarded, and this was to be expected. Actually, Jeremy Roenick had some interesting comments like, hey, it's a little bit of overkill right now.
I can see both sides.
I could see both sides too.
Because it is a lot, but...
Buddy, how many people watched the first game on ESPN? 1.2.
Great for the game.
It's so good for the game. TNT, do you have the numbers with you already?
No, I don't. I
think it was the second most watched game, not including Winter Classics on cable.
Right.
Jeff said it was the highest rated game on ESPN. Then the next one, TNT, with you guys, was the highest on that too, both regular season games.
So people are clearly interested in what he has to say and following this story of this, generational talent coming in the league. And I'm pretty sure that they were following McDavid and Sid and Ovi just as closely. Maybe with the way social media is now, especially with Instagram and Twitter popping off the way that they are, that it seems like it's a lot more intense. But I'm just worried about the person. I'm worried about this kid getting burnt out. And I mean, with the schedule they got him on to start the year off, like that is very much possible where this kid could be burnt out by the media come Christmas time.
First 5 games, national television.
Yeah.
I mean, I asked him to come on Chicklets, and yesterday we were talking. He's like, I don't have 1 minute right now. He's like, if I had 35, 40 minutes, I'm jumping on with you guys. I'd love to come on, but he's like, I don't have a minute to do this. He's just so busy. Yeah.
So to try to concentrate on what he's trying to do on the ice and then navigate everything else, I commend the kid because that's a tough burden for a guy at 18 years old, but he's doing it. He's doing it with a smile on his face. He's being playful with the media. And I do not envy that for a second.
And the good thing is your moments of like release and being able to relax is actually during the games. And when you're on the ice for practice, like I can remember Sid's rookie year when it was the same madness minus Twitter in terms of like, once you get the gear on for practice or a game, you're like, oh, I just get to do what I love now. I don't have to deal with everything else. In terms of the coverage, you're never going to have something perfectly done. I would much rather this than all of a sudden, or if they decided to not pump his tires as much, if all these games weren't on national television. Like, you're never going to have it perfect. So this is way better than not enough coverage in my mind. And I think after seeing him play, I've watched the first 2. And unfortunately, we won't be able to watch tonight in Toronto. That should be a great one. But I've watched the first 2 and seeing him, I'm like, I'm glad they're doing this because he's that good.
Yeah.
So just keep pumping him to everyone. At some point, it will slow down.
Yeah.
It has to naturally. But the first 10 games of this generational talent, just get his name out there. It helps the Hawks. It helps him. It helps the league. So as much as I've been like, oh my God, like more Bedard, I get it.
2 other things that we need to mention. The boos from the Montreal Canadiens fans booing Connor Bedard, which is fucking hilarious. Giving him
donkeys.
No, I like that. It's just giving them a warm welcome to the NHL. They're true fans. They want to hate the other team's best player. I mean, at least they get some fucking voice out of or some sound out of the bottom bowl compared to Toronto, and we'll get to that later, for fuck's sakes. What does Austin Matthews have to do to get you guys to throw a fucking hat on the ice, pull a rabbit out of his ass? And then what was the other thing Bedard did? Oh, no bucket. First game, took the
First fine, yeah.
took the $2,500 ching. He doesn't give a fuck.
Not at all. Another note on that goal. Wait, I know you sent it to the group. I had it. His first career goal came 26,533 days after his great uncle James Bedard scored his first career goal against the Bruins as a Blackhawk. It was the only goal of his uncle's great uncle's 22-game career. So Connie, you're on the clock. You got to beat your uncle.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe he sticks around after practice and keeps shooting just to wait for the media to get the frig out of there. So
they won't
outweigh him.
They won't leave.
Outweigh him. A couple more numbers here. Obviously, 3 points in 3 games. Face-off percentage 26.5%. Well, picked it up after that first game. Only 1.6% of his shifts have started in the D zone. He's got 1 hit, 2 penalty minutes. He's drawn 3 penalties as well. So, did anything surprise you about him? Like, just kind of take you by surprise? First game in the pros, I noticed like how small he was. I know that's been what everyone's talking about, but out there with the big boys, he was a little sprite out there, but he's a water bug, man, just all over the place. And they're giving him tons of minutes. I mean, 43 minutes after his first 2 games. They like basically take the leash off him.
Yeah.
Do it. Play him all game. I mean, like, it's not like he, as a younger guy, like, you want to play as much as you can. Actually, any guy in the league wants to play as much as they can. But for him, get him out there, get him confidence. The more ice time, the more touches, the better he feels. And the only other thing I'll say besides the faceoffs is I think you saw him get knocked over quite a bit, but that just kind of comes with the territory. It's like he's never played against D-men this big, this strong. So it's going to be an incredible season. And the shot, like his 1 goal so far, obviously it was a great little wraparound after a quick shot against Boston, but we haven't even seen one of these snipes that you'll see 30 of this year.
So a great example, we actually were able to show it on TNT because he had it against the Penguins in night 1 on the Tuesday, and we had them in the Boston game, but he was going down one-on-one on Graves. And keep in mind, so through the neutral zone, just like McDavid and all these other young players, they have their head up and they're crossing over through the neutral zone. So it's hard for D-men to gap up properly and know what side he's going to pick. So he started the play coming up in the neutral zone on the left side, goes to the right side. And when Graves, he didn't have a great gap because of it. So when he goes out and he's got stick on puck, Bedard's able to toe drag it and move it about 18 inches.
It almost went in too.
It almost went in.
First period.
So he changes the angle for the goaltender. So the goaltender's squared up to where the shot is, and then Graves goes stick on puck, and then he pulls it in towards his body 18 inches. And because his stick is so tall, see how high his
I saw
top
that
elbow
breakdown
has
you
to,
did. I didn't realize that. It's
his
interesting.
top elbow is fucking tickling the rafters, and he's able to change that angle so much and get off a laser through that stick on puck, which that's not easy to do in full speed. So look for that coming this NHL season. I wouldn't be shocked if he scores 10 goals off the rush, exactly how that play broke down.
The best players, the last thing I'll say is the best players are somehow able to always cut to the middle. Like that's McDavid, right? Like you're like, oh, you got to try to angle him off. They're so dynamic that they're cutting to the middle. It creates all these passing
Jack
and shooting
Hughes
lanes.
right now, too.
Jack, we'll get into him.
Yeah, get me
Holy
my fucking,
shit.
get me my lotion.
Holy
Double wrister
shit.
coming for you, Jackie boy.
Exactly. That's the same thing. That's the same thing. And Bedard, right away, I noticed it. This is a guy who's just able to get to the middle, and those are the best in the league do that.
I gotta ask you. You play with Sid coming in. Speed wise, was he already there?
Oh, yes.
That wasn't something that was holding him back.
Sid?
Right.
No.
Right.
He was, when he came into the league, it was like the fastest player anyone ever seen. It was kind of like McDavid has now taken that as the fastest player anyone's ever seen with the puck. That was Sid right off the hop. Remember how often he was splitting the D early in his career? His speed was above Bedard.
So sub out Bedard's shot where Sid didn't necessarily have the shot, where Connor's got to work on the speed aspect.
Yeah, I don't think his speed is like bad. I just don't think it's high,
maybe slightly above average for the league, but that is something where, I mean, time and space is what gets taken away at that level. And that's one thing that you have to work towards. So he'll be doing sprints all summer to probably gain that half a step, and kind of like the way Clayton Keller did when he came in. All these small guys.
One last note. He had 30 shot attempts his first 3 games, 16 shots on net. I had a preseason prop. it was Bedard, 350 shots or more, 8-1.
I took it too.
Did you
I took it too. Let's
Nice. There we
go.
So
buddy.
8-1's nuts,
Crazy, dude.
But it's all about staying healthy,
Exactly.
right? That's that stat in terms of like you got to play all the games to get that. He actually probably wouldn't need 80 games to get 350 shots because you sent that over.
Yeah.
With the plus 800, I was blown away, and then you see how often he's shooting. You're like, that's a hell of a bet, all right.
He's been firing away. Since
RA's the year of the warthog.
Jinx, buy me a Coke. All right, your boy Austin Matthews, man. Austin Matthews became just the second player in the last 105 years to open an NHL season with back-to-back hat tricks. Give the Leafs a 2-0 start out of the gate. The only other guy to do it was Ovi, so I guess you could say twice in the last 6 years as well.
There you go. I talked about the greatest goal scorers, and Ovi got to 300. It took him 9 less games than what it took Austin Matthews.
I can't believe that.
9 less games here. We're talking about a generational talent, folks, and there's these dummies online that were talking about him getting overpaid with that deal he just got. Smoke another one. Get your hand out of RA's treat bag, for fuck's sakes, if you think that's an overpayment.
Be careful if you dip in there anyways. One other note, how about this hat trick? The 9th of his career. He's already 5th all-time on the Leafs list. The first Leafs to go back-to-back since Wendell Clark back in 94. It's a long time for back-to-back.
Wendell Clark also beat the shit out of like 3 people in those 2 games, I'm sure, too.
Listen, I think people forget. I took him 12 games last year to get to 6 goals. He's already got 15% of last year's total in the first 2 games of the season. He came in last year with that hand wrist injury, and that's what was holding him back. This is a guy who can easily score 70 goals in the National Hockey League.
If he stays healthy, I think he's got 70.
I think getting 70 to 75 goals in today's NHL is just as impressive as when Wayne was playing and he got 92. The way that the defense overall and the goaltenders evolved, 75 goals in today's NHL would
Insane.
be fucking banana lands. And I can see this guy getting close to it. And another thing too, game 3, this podcast comes out after they play the Blackhawks. Another team he could very likely have a hat trick.
I know.
So he could have 9 goals by the time this fucking podcast rolls out. But overall, as far as the Leafs' performance, little shaky against Montreal, but a gutsy win. Austin Matthews scores those 2 goals to send it to OT. Was hoping he was going to get the shootout winner, but overall, a great start. They got all their guns blazing. Marner looks awesome. Nylander looks like I'm ready to hand over 11 sheets a year to him because he's a fucking beast right
that
now.
goal he scored the other night. Who'd he embarrass? I think it was maybe Goligoski and another guy. It was sick. And then he just waits it out. Yeah, that's going to be what he's done. Like, obviously it's 2 games, but then last year, like, you can't lose him. You got to pay him, figure it out, whatever you have to do. He's that good.
You got to keep this core together. You got to believe in him. You got to do exactly like they did in Washington. They kept trying to run it over and over, and finally they ended up adjusting and figuring out a way to win.
So I'm a big fan of falls. Like a good fall in an NHL game.
Yeah.
It's so funny. The TJ Brody with could be one of the best of the year. Just at the blue line when Jake Evans goes down, makes it 1-0. Just an all-time classic fall. And whenever I get a good one, or Rob Scuderi, he sends me the good ones. I send him the good ones. And I sent him that one. I go, oh, look at this. And he goes, they always score. And it's true. Like, as a D-man, if you have a horrible fall that gives the guy a breakaway, every single time you're like, please, please, please. Oh, fuck. So it was a classic kind
Mike
of blooper.
Others used to make sure they all ended up in the video session, but at the end, the worst is when you're a D-man and you're pedaling back and then you dig your heels into the ice and you fall back and then your stick ends up going into the crowd and
There's
it
a
just
yard sale.
launches into the meshing and gets stuck up there. But I got a bone to pick with the fans.
What is going on? The other night, he scored the 3rd. I was like, is this like a replay with no volume?
But
what is going on, dude?
there might have been 5 hats on the ice.
Ugh.
I'm not even like the hats, yeah, but the noise, like, are they cheering?
I think they got to ban cocaine in the lower bowl and start giving them psychedelics or something that'll get them a little bit of energy.
like
RA, you're
cocaine
the
would
drug
be
guy.
like-
I feel like they need cocaine.
No, I feel like maybe they're doing too much and they're just getting stuck in their seats and they're overthinking it. It's just like, just fucking cheer and throw your fucking hat on the ice. The
library.
guy just got a back-to-back hat trick and pulled them out of a 2-goal deficit in the dying fucking minute. And it was even before that it started when they're doing the player introductions.
Yes,
Mitchie Marner's coming out, fucking guy who's a 100-point guy for you, plays on the defensive side of the puck. It's a year where this core group, like you're going into their years now where they could potentially win a Stanley Cup. I don't even think the people stood out of their goddamn seats. They put their claps together.
It's a tough atmosphere barn.
It's the yacht club.
It's nuts. And you've said it for a while now, but watching the other night, I mean, beginning of the year and just silence. The silence is deafening.
I think what they need to do is they need to swap out the upper bowl and the lower bowl for one game and see how it plays out. Get the hardcores who can
that'll
only afford the upper bowl seats to get down below, and then send all these fucking suits up top to go do the fucking coke off the ugly granite in the upper deck.
Ugly granite. The other highlight of that first game, Wi-Fi versus Revo. Revo buried that defenseman Goulet. Then they scrapped. Did you think he got jumped, Revo?
We got to have a little conversation because you seem to think that you mentioned that Reeves got ragdolled in the fight in the group chat.
I said he bullied him into the net. I believe what I wrote. And okay, so jump, like I don't necessarily think it was a complete jumping, but it definitely was. He had his gloves off before Reeves knew it. Does that count as a jumping? You're a fighter guy.
Listen,
a jump?
That is a full on jump.
All right, I take it back.
Getting the advantage early on. As much as I want to pump Montreal fans for booing Bedard and giving them the welcome to the National Hockey League, you guys are such fucking homers online. You guys are saying that he dummied Revo and threw him
I never
around.
said he dummied him.
No, this is what the fans are saying online. You said that he ragdolled him, but you were still questioning whether the fact he's jumped. He jumped him.
Now you're telling me like that. And I knew it wasn't a fair like square off. So I guess if it's not that, it's kind of jumping. I just meant at the end, I've never seen Reeves like pushed over like that. That's what I meant.
You would be hard pressed to find a video of me online. If a tough guy went and ran one of my players, if I'm fighting him, I'm skating over, I'm hitting him on the shin pad, and then I'm backpedaling to say, we're going and we're squaring off. 100. It actually happened to me in training camp.
Like Foligno did to Reeves the next night.
Bingo. He tapped him and he backed off, and that was a square off, and that's the way it should be done. Now, we talked about this last podcast, not knowing that the fireworks were going to happen that early on.
I did.
But the heavyweight belt is up for grabs right now, and it's hungry in that Atlantic division. They're fighting every game from now on, especially with, can we roll Revo's comments?
Yeah.
I kind of want a rematch with Jack.
I mean, I don't like getting jumped. I don't know if I've ever really jumped anybody. If you want to fight, just ask me. I'm always around. You know where to find me.
Once you got going, what was your perspective on it? We don't usually see the net kind of involved like that.
Yeah, I don't know if he did it on purpose to end it or what. He just kind of, I don't know, once I kind of stood up and he had to grab me, he just kind of tried pushing me for the rest of the way. So I felt like it was on purpose, but we got him 2 more times, I'm sure. Sure something might happen. Don't want to go out like that.
So he clearly states that he was jumped. Georgia Rock topped online and had things to say about it. And
Did he?
Oh yeah. He thinks that Wi-Fi took him down and gets the W on that one, where to me, the wrestling aspect, sure. Did he out-muscle him when they got wrestling? Yes. But considering he had the jump and he didn't dummy him with the punches, that's a draw in my books, and it's still very much up for grabs. And I don't know when's the next time they play, because it's happening again, and that's when the heavyweight belt's up for grabs.
I do have this Larock quote here. He said, "Brah, you hit Goulet from behind. You knew he would be coming, and you had many chances for a rematch later in the game, and you didn't take it." Then with the laughing emoji.
Okay, so I cannot imagine that there was a moment where Wi-Fi said, "You want to do this again?" and Reeves said, "No." There's no chance that happened. He probably actually asked him again, and maybe Wi-Fi is like, "I don't think." I just think that Wi-Fi is a legitimate killer.
He's a top 5, and he's hungry,
and he's also fucking good. Like his shot from the point, like he skates well. I thought when he was kind of coming in, and last year we heard the nickname and everything, I didn't know he was also a player. Like that's a hell of a signing, and a guy to have like in your team, considering he was working at a store like Walmart when he ended up getting picked up. And I guess his brother was drafted by Montreal this summer, and he might be tougher. So there's obviously a guy there that's like muscle for the Canadians, who's willing to do anything. But now that you're saying it, I'm going with you. It was a jump.
And by no means do I not like this Wi-Fi kid. I just think that in that situation, you got to tap the shin pads, like the next game against Minnesota where Foligno backed off. They score up. But ultimately, after a few games, the Revo experiment, in my opinion, is A+. The guys love him in the locker room. He got the belt after that game against Minnesota. He really got the tone set.
That was a good fight.
It was a good scrap. Shout out to Foligno as well for going after the big boy to protect his teammate. But that's one thing that I think the Leafs needed. And then with guys like Bertuzzi and Domi and other guys getting to fill in that middleweight to light what would you call Domi? Like a lightweight,
Welterweight.
a welterweight.
Yeah.
Just to have those toughness in layers. And I also mentioned it for the Boston Bruins and said it on the broadcast too. Trent Frederick is a good offensive talent, but without any other tough guys around, Frederick has to be the guy who, if a guy gets hit, he's got to worry about going to do that job. With Lucic in the mix now, he can play second fiddle, focus more on playing, and I think that's going to excel his numbers. I mean, he did have career high with 17 tucks last year, but in that first game, you saw him with that beautiful tip-in goal, where that to me plays a big factor for not only the other guys who have to do it in the lineup, but for the skill guys. You're telling me fucking Matthews and those guys are going to be laughing in guys' faces this year and said, oh, you want to talk to me? Yeah, Revo. All right, time to go. Bertuzzi, time to go.
Well, Revo got announced in the starting lineup at the home opener and just gave it this one. And then the camera shot up to Tree Living.
He was
just started
loving it.
laughing.
He was loving it.
I'm like, that's awesome. Because you don't know if a GM's like, oh, hard GMs. He was just laughing at that. And then, yeah, I think Revo, I also think like how he is with the media helps a ton, right?
With the other guys as well,
yes,
right?
because like people want to talk to him. Reporters want to talk to him. They know they're going to get a quote. They know they're going to get a soundbite. And it just may take, even if it's minor, less stuff for Marner and Matthews and Nylander to have to deal with, it's just a little less because they go talk to Revo. So after that hit and that fight with Foligno, yeah, I'm down with you. So far, it looks great.
People were bitching about the hit, but fuck off, man.
That was a good hit, dude.
I think the pendulum is swinging back. We got old school hockey coming back.
You want to hear something crazy? They don't play again till March 9th.
What?
That's like, oh man.
We got to get the flex schedule going. Put it on a Sunday matinee.
Yeah, Sunday during Super Bowl. Domi put down in the lineup for their game tonight against the Blackhawks, and actually Sheldon Keefe made a couple comments about
saw that.
kind of throwing the puck away, and I saw some clips. It was Justin Bourne on Twitter throwing out that I think the Leafs are all about, and I remember Ken Hitchcock when we were at camp with St. Louis was always talking about no hope plays in the offensive zone and holding on to it and grinding them down. And there was a couple clips of Domi just trying to throw it out front right to a guy on the Wild. So he drops down to the third line. And obviously like there'll be times he's moving back up. But I think because of that, you'll just see, you got to get used to our system. We're not throwing the puck away in the offensive zone.
I have the quote here if you guys want.
Yeah, and there was also a clip of him talking to him on the ice during practice. And listen, I love Max Domi's game. He was an offensive player in junior, and even at some points in the NHL when he was playing with Arizona.
With weaker teams, kind of.
Yeah, sometimes when you feel like that pressure to produce and put up points, yeah, you do have some brain farts in the offensive zone where you're making blind plays and you're throwing these backhand sauces or, trying to create these seam plays where maybe a pass off the pads is the right move.
Or just hold it.
Yeah. So decision-making becomes very important, especially when you're a guy who's in that middle six range, right? So listen, I think that he's going to figure it out, and he's probably just trying to impress guys early on with making plays. But at a certain point, you have to manage the puck. And if you don't, you're going to end up on those bottom lines.
And Keith said, my focus with Max is how he managed the puck offensively. If you don't take care of the puck offensively, you have to defend that much more. We want to do a better job when we lose the puck. But in Max's case, it's how he can keep his group on offense more.
And there are times where he has been more responsible with it and has had a little bit of a lesser role. Like I'm thinking about puck management when he was in Carolina, when he went there at the deadline. I thought last year in playoffs with the Dallas Stars, he looked great. So if he can get back to playing a little bit more simple game and even a little bit more physical and in your face, I think that that's where he's most effective. And he's a great middle six guy.
After the game, Revo and Foligno got together. She had a hug and but Foligno got to catch up with Revo's kids. That's from Mike Russo. Just, perfect example of guys leaving it all on the ice and still boys.
That's when tummy sticks is okay. You get all the junk out of the way first, and then you can play a little tummy sticks.
Not done with the Leafs yet. They thought they had a new goal song for this year, Biz. They got rid of the Hall & Oates. What was, I can't think.
Making My Dreams Come True?
Yeah, Make My Dreams Come True. They had Steve Aoki's 2012 dance remix of Kid Cudi's. I'm a fossil. Kid Cudi's Pursuit of Happiness, but hold the phone. Our pal Nick Alberga tweeted Saturday night, don't expect to hear Pursuit of Happiness as the goal song for Leafs games anymore. Told they won't be using it any longer this season. Heard the Leafs receive some complaints about the song's message and or lyrics. Apparently there's a
Pursuit of Happiness
reference in there somewhere. And then Dave Pagnotta said the Leafs are rotating multiple songs for certain games like the original six matchup and Throwback Thursdays. But either way, it looks like that song is donezo because
I'm talking about guys in the lower bowl rip and rail. So I'm probably not the guy as far as the song's message to really break this all down. Love the song. Love the movie Project X. Those were how I used to party back in the heydays. I don't anymore, but it's a song that gets you going. I like the remix. It's way less of a snooze face or snooze face. Is that a snooze fest than the other song they used to have, and it wasn't bringing them any luck. So it's time to move on. But I do like the fact that they are going to rotate and see what ends up gelling. Is there any recommendations that you would have for a tune?
No, I'm so bad at picking songs. Like if I was on the teams now that have players pick their own goal songs, which is a cool idea, I'm telling you, I'd have nothing. I'd be sitting there. I'd ask people to pick one for me. I'm just brutal at that.
Really?
No creativity, no imagination. I just don't have.
I feel
that
like you
in
would
my
pick
bag.
a Coldplay song. You're always
Like a sad one. I think that
It was all yellow.
I
It's
think-
like everyone's just
they're like, why is he picking a song after the color of his teeth? But
honking back live.
I do think that the Red Wings better not do shit with their song, because them bumping Eminem was a nice touch.
Okay.
It was a real nice touch
What?
in
Dum, dum,
Detroit.
dum,
No, it
dum.
was
Without me.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, and it just, the place was rocking when they scored
Supposedly
a couple.
they just brought back the old goal horn too. I guess there was a unreal goal horn.
the Leafs?
Yeah, no, the
Red Wings had a
Oh,
leg.
yeah.
I never even knew it went away.
Yeah, so when they left Joe Louis, it went away, but they just brought it back to Little Caesars.
I'd like to see a couple sneaky bangers of you fans tweeting at us, letting us know what you think the Leafs goal song should be.
Well, think of this though, like the Bruins is Zombie Nation, and if you said that, you'd be like, "What?" But it actually works for them. Like I'm sure there's
it's
some
all
Bruins
about
fans.
the snippet because you're not playing the whole song.
Yeah, it's the snippet, exactly, Biz. But I think that most people, if you said Zombie Nation, be like, "What? That sounds awful." And there's probably Bruins fans who are ready for a change, but I seem to think it hits. It hits when when Pasta scored on that shootout goal against Nashville. All of a sudden, Zombie Nation, it kind of works for them. So the way you throw out names of songs, they may sound brutal, but then if you get in the atmosphere of the crowd going nuts, unless you're in Toronto, all of a sudden you're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense.
You Can Call Me Al by Paul Simon. Ba-da-da-da.
Oh,
That wouldn't be
nice.
bad.
That's nice.
That would be a good one,
That's
right?
nice.
There you go.
I like that.
There's no way Detroit's going to get rid of a local guy's song like that if people complain. I think, I don't know, is it a PC thing? Like they're getting complaints about it? I don't know. It seems like a fucking week.
Well, anytime you cross the border, that's when people
Yeah.
are going to get the non-explicit version.
Yeah,
I mean, they're going to have Shania
There's some
Twain
guy
in
in
there.
his basement,
Oh,
Burlington,
I feel
Ontario,
like
wearing
a
a
woman.
mask, complaining about the song.
They should do like in baseball, individual goal songs. You know, like pick a fucking song every time a guy scores. You know,
I
have it
also
queued
think
up.
that's a little cheesy. I'd rather
Okay,
pick one
right.
song as a team and roll that out.
All right.
So interested to hear your guys' opinions on that. And I'll think of a few sneaky bangers in the meantime.
What's up, guys? Before we go any further, we want to take a minute to talk about the Camberfly sneaker from our friends over at Peter Millar. The Camberfly takes inspiration from the curvature used in aviation and architectural design. The shoe features an ergonomic arc-shaped outside the sole, draws from this inspiration, while dynamic lines showcase an innovative style perfect for the season. The textured mesh uppers allow breathability and flex, while an interior foam heel cup provides the support you need for all-day comfort. A custom sole gives you durability and traction. Guys, if you want a sneaker that showcases innovative design and features incredible slip-on comfort, you've got to check out the Camberfly from Peter Millar. Head on over to petermillar.com/chicklets to explore the Camberfly and the rest of the Peter Millar line.
Whit, your Oilers, tough start. Vancouver beat them 8-1 in the home opener. Then they lost 4-3 in Edmonton's home opener. How about this? In Vancouver, Jack Campbell was pulled after giving up 4 goals on 16 shots in 27-30. Skinner then gave up 4 goals on 16 shots in 32 minutes, 30 seconds. Then in Edmonton, Skinner gave up 4 goals on 16 shots during the whole game. So 3 performances from the goalies, all the same fucking thing. That's pretty wild, the statistical.
Very
anomaly.
wild. Not exactly the start you were hoping for in E-Town. That probably goes without saying. Now, after the game on Saturday night, the second one, Skinner was saying like he's very happy where his game is. He's really confident.
that.
And I was like,
I love that.
I mean, of the 4 goals on the 4-3 loss, the only goal that was kind of bad was the 4th goal by Lafferty, who Lafferty's a player. I mean, obviously there's so many guys in Toronto, but Vancouver, he fits right in. I think Talk loves him. He's playing a decent amount.
Yep.
He's got a high motor. He's a prick to play against. That goal was weak. But it's not just goaltending. Like the goaltending right now is a worry. And unfortunately, it's like every year preseason brings these different thoughts and hopes of fan bases that they see guys perform a certain way. And Campbell looked incredible. And so all of a sudden he comes out with a stinker in Van that first game. But they make some of the dumbest decisions. And I know I've been on the Darnell Nurse train in terms of stop worrying about how much he's making. He's a good player. The decision he made the other night, I mean, you tie the game up 2-2.
That was a wit pinch.
That was a wit pinch to the core. Just wanting a cookie. It's 2-2. You just tied it up. You got 4 men on a rush, a 4-on-2. Like, you're the 5th guy. You just stay back. They got plenty of guys on offense there. And I think it was Fogle who misses the net, wrap around. And I'm watching and the puck goes around. I'm like, oh, 2-on-1. I'm like, 2-on-0? What the? And then I saw the replay of Nurse jumping in. It's just kind of like boneheaded decisions. Now, it is so early. It's 2 games. The problem with a start like that is like you got to win the next one. You lose 3 games, then the noise gets louder and louder, and the fan base gets worse.
Trade McDavid.
And after they had the 8-1 loss, I think they had to do a signing at the West Edmonton Mall.
No, that clip was real.
Which one?
Well, there was a clip that was out there where they had to sign specific things, and then this might be an old clip too, but it was at the West Edmonton Mall where a kid was also trying to get some shirt signed. And McDavid's like, I can't. And then the kid turned around and goes and throws it in the pond that was right behind them where they were signing. Now, is this an old clip? Gee,
I didn't even see this clip.
It might be an old one that's been recycled, but the fact that they had to go do a signing after that, hey, what's going on with the power play?
Oh,
yeah, we're working on it.
Well, the power play, I mean, they were 2 for 7 Saturday night. So like the power play last year, the greatest power play ever. I'm not really worried about then, that part of their team. It's just, you got to get some saves. You got to just get smarter hockey. Like you have to be willing to play like a boring style when you're that team. Like if you're not McDavid and Nuge and Leon, it's like you got to understand your role and just get the puck in, play in the other team's zone because defensively, that's not their strong suit. I've never said they're a great defensive team. Yes, I picked them to win the Stanley Cup, but at the same time, I understand like you're going to have to really change your game at certain times of the game specifically to be able to win in this league. You can't just win on the power play. Like
personally, I sometimes I'm a fan of the early season struggles. And when Pittsburgh ended up winning that first cup, they were not very good in the first half. I think they ended up.
I was still on the team.
Well, they ended up moving on from Therrien and getting Bilesma in, and then they ended up going on this run. So they're going to have to figure things out because that's a tough division too. Pacific has always been weak the last couple of years, and all of a sudden,
might be the best.
Probably the best division right now in hockey. I have 5 teams coming out of the Pacific. Now, I'll ask you, if this continues and things are rocky after about 25 games, I mean, we didn't bring this up in preseason. Could you see them potentially moving on from Woodcroft?
It would. You'd have to be around Christmas time.
And that's not a knock on him.
You'd have to be around Christmas time really struggling. I mean, if you look at his record since he became head coach, it's very impressive.
I understand. And sometimes the decisions get very difficult. But when you have this type of group.
I'm not even willing to address it yet.
Okay, fair.
Because it's not fair after 2 games to go into a complete
I'm not trying to kick up dust either.
Oh, I know you're trying to kick up dust with the oil.
No, I'm not.
I know you're trying to fucking pull this shit off right now.
Anybody listening right now, I'm not. Because I'm saying pressure is so high where if you get out of the gates after, let's say, 25, 30 games and you're playing 500 hockey with this group and the expectations that came in, I'm sure some of you Oilers fans are saying, I look more towards the GM for maybe the Nurse signing, not addressing the goaltending situation where last year they signed Campbell, but a decision has to be made at a certain point. If you're not getting the production out of the group, I wouldn't even know what type of coach they would bring in and who's on the market for that type of thing.
Babs? Well, Biz, here's the thing. There's about 8 to 10 teams that you could kind of say the same for. I mean, obviously, like there's
how many with expectations as high as Edmonton's?
Toronto. I mean, if they ever were like struggling around Christmas, I don't know. They just re-signed Sheldon Keefe, but it's like, I just think there's a lot of teams that you look at and you think if they're 500 at Christmas time, the coach could be on the hot seat. Every year we see in this league, 5 coaches fired, right? 3 to 5 coaches. So it's a fair question, but it could be asked to anyone. The other thing is too, is
people are also like, we're 2 games in, stop hitting the panic button. But
we're doing a show where we kind of like have to talk about what's happening. But I agree. It's so early. It's so early that it's really hard to get too overwhelmed by any slow or fast start. In terms of the Oilers, though, Matthias Ekholm, he came over. I think they were 18-1-2. It was this amazing run after they acquired him at the deadline. He played with Bouchard. He really helped his game. He was the perfect number one defensive for the Oilers. He didn't get any preseason, right? And he didn't play in the opener. And then he plays Saturday night in his first game. It's like, you don't have the runway. You don't have the beginning of the season to get out the kinks. So obviously when he finds his game, that's an enormous thing for them. You got to give him a little bit of time. He was the one who got beat by Lafferty on that fourth goal. I don't think that happens if he's feeling a little bit more mid-season form. So I'm not going to get too rattled right now. Obviously, like, the first game was embarrassing, but that's just a blowout. It sucks when it's the first game of the year. If that was in January, no one says a word. The second game, their start was actually what I'd really hoped for. They came out flying. They came out buzzing. I think they had over 40, 45 shots.
Yeah, they dominated
So
all that stuff,
Casey DeSmith was battling. He made some unreal saves. So it's like they played definitely good enough to win that game. It was the Nurse pinch and just not getting a win in the home opener that really sticks out.
We have to give Vancouver, because we haven't had much positive things to say over the last couple of years.
Dude.
Buddy,
Pedersen.
I know. I'm going to fucking eat my shit on that one. I said 9.5 in that range and maybe question how he plays on the defensive side of the puck. Some people were saying he had a couple votes for the Selke, or not the Selke?
Yeah.
His defensive one last year. But overall, he's trucking guys right now.
Yeah,
he's
he
making
hits.
plays. He's battling his dick off.
6 points, 2 games.
And at this point, it's looking like 11 million, 11.5 even.
He made
He
a
is
great. Sorry, Ben.
No, go ahead.
Great little play on that 2-on-0. Like he kind of got Nurse's lane
know.
just enough to like
Buddy.
throw him off a little bit, like subtle little
He
thing.
moved it and just took it. It was his ice as much as
Yeah.
it was Nurse's.
Yeah.
And he just moved over enough to give a little bit time to the goal scorer. So
Stallion.
he is so good, dude.
Between him, JT Miller, who I thought was awesome and was a bit of a wet blanket 5-on-5 against.
He's also a motherfucker.
He's a
out there.
motherfucker.
He looks like he plays the game. I would have done anything if in my DNA I had this. He's angry.
Ryan
He's-
Kessler 2.0.
He plays the game so pissed off, like he's just looking to snap on someone. And then his shot, you saw the goal he scored in the first one. He's an unbelievable player. He's so fast. Great on faceoff. So I said if Vancouver gets in, Pedersen's going to be up for MVP. And I think with talk and how much they respect him, and if they get the goaltending like DeSmith showed, and it could be a surprise season. And Quinn Hughes, just so cool, calm, and collected. He can give you 28 minutes. He's a freak. Totally makes sense that he was named captain. It could be a very exciting year.
We have to mention Brock Besser. I could not be happier for this guy. He's dealt with he had a couple difficult years. Lost his father. Obviously struggled a little bit on the ice. I don't know if that was a result, but obviously a lot of things happening in his personal life. So for him to open the season with 4 goals, apparently he trained his balls off this summer too, and really came in looking to make an impact. And I couldn't be happier for the guy because he's one of the nicest guys going too.
Texas hat trick. Thatcher Demko. I don't know if he was at the Chicklets Cup or not, but he had to leave the game with 12 minutes left, puking in his mask.
No, so there was a
flu's going around.
The flu was going around the team. So just overall for the first 2 games and the mindset coming into the season for Talk in that group to battle through that and get 4 points, just a gutsy overall performance. Demko puked in his mask, had to leave that first game at the end. So shout out to that team right now, man. They're battling their dicks off, and not the easiest of situations because they don't have a great arena situ in Vancouver.
What do you mean?
They're not practicing at their regular rink all the time, so they're constantly having to do the dressing drives. They're practicing at UBC. They're practicing.
They don't have a practice rink.
They don't have a practice facility right now, and
Wow.
that arena's normally sold out for concerts and stuff. So they had that going on for them.
That's a pain in the ass.
Pain in the ass. They did a little bit of training camp over in Victoria, but had that first home game, and now they're on the road for 7, the first of which was in Edmonton. So now they're going out east to Florida. So a very difficult start as far as scheduling. If they can get 4 of these next 6 on the road, that's a perfect start for the Vancouver Canucks to get their confidence back. And then all of a sudden, I might regret not taking them as a playoff team.
And staying in the Pacific quick, because I know we're kind of hopping around.
Yeah.
Vegas.
Oh, man.
They are 3-0. They've won 4-1 every single game. Eichel's scoring highlight reel goals. They have the same fucking team back, minus Riley Smith. Amadio is an unreal player who's getting a bigger role. They are like just the fact that they're like kind of like not brought up in terms of like powerhouses going into the season. And maybe that's an understatement. And people were like, Vegas is the same team. I thought it might be maybe a slow start, but 3 games, they look so good. They look like the best team in the league.
I know it's Gary Lawless and he works for the team, but he said Kelly McCrimmon's probably one of the smartest hockey minds in the game. And just with these sneaky pickups, that Mike Amadio, I play with him in the AHL. He just has something that you can't teach where he skates pretty straight up. So he's always scanning the ice. And when he's got the puck on his stick, it's almost like his heart rate drops. He just doesn't have that, when guys pick it up and all of a sudden they're like, 180 heartbeats per minute. It seems like he could slow everything down. So just a sneaky great player. Helped me, or actually he wasn't there when we won the Calder Cup, but I got to play with him when he was with the Reign with the LA Kings. And he's just an awesome player. And as you said, man, they only lost Riley Smith, and that was the best 4th line in hockey all of last year. So if anything, those guys could get a little bit more ice time, and they're just humming out of the gates.
Also, they raised the first ever banner for Las Vegas, first time they went on a Major 4 championship. How about those rings, man? They had a little special compartment if you need to hide something while you're in Vegas. I thought that was a perfect ring for Vegas.
Yeah, and they have a little mark of all 9 goals where they were scored from on the ice. The game we were at, the clincher, it's pretty unique. Oh, no. There's a little X, like a little X where all the 9 goals scored. And of course, Vegas being that big, strong team, there's like 6 of them right around the crease. Yeah. That's just how they dusted Florida.
You mean the game we should have been on and won $1 gazillion?
I should have. I'll never get over that.
Yeah.
Also want to say welcome back to Logan Thompson. We met him at the All-Star game. He hadn't played since January due to his injury. First game back, he stopped 22 out of 23 for the W. So good to see him getting back. Also, dude, we always talk about other team centers, but you look at Vegas, man. Stevenson, Eichel, Carlson, Roy. I mean, that kind of gonna be one of the top 3 fucking center.
I think I misspoke when I said the Kings had the best center ice in all of the league when I was trying to pump their tires and pick them as my Western team. Given that they're champions and they have guys who have proved it in their lineup, and Roy easily probably the best 4th line center in the league right now, I'd have to agree with you, RA. Best center depth going.
And
Stevenson's going to get a payday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Brett Howden won the first Sussy of the Year pool. Got 2 games for Cream and Brandon Tanev when they played Seattle. But we got to circle back to Vancouver for a sec, boys. Connor Garland scored the first Canucks goal of the season, but just prior to that, Elliot Friedman reported that the Canucks granted him permission to talk to other teams, and his new agent, Judd, is doing just that. They needed cap room, and Jim Rutherford didn't sign Garland, so he doesn't really have any, I guess, loyalty to him. But it shouldn't be too hard to get rid of this guy. He's fucking shifty. Good.
Well, it's going to be hard because he makes 5, and he makes 5 for, I want to say, the next 2 years after this year.
Yeah, until 2025, 2026.
Yeah, and I like Garls. He came on the scene, as a 4th liner in Arizona, finally getting his shot when there was a few injuries, and just through him forechecking and working his balls off out there, he started, climbing up the lineup, started playing in the top 6 and started getting points. And I don't know, sometimes, maybe when you get your payday, you get away from the things that brought you success. And I think that exactly what I said about Max Domi, whereas I think that if he gets a little bit more back to his old game and maybe mix with some new scenery, he could find himself in a happy place. I think that his game has maybe tailed off a little bit since getting that contract as to what he brought, at least what I saw with the Arizona Coyotes. So a little bit more salt and pepper to get back to what brought him that original success, hounding down pucks on the forecheck, getting in those greasy areas. And I think that he's probably a 20 to 25 goal guy around that 50 point range. And for me, that's a great pickup for a Stanley Cup team on a 3rd line role. Mm-hmm. But the problem being is there's just no cap space anymore, and he's making that $5 million tag. But sometimes we've seen it before. Guys aren't happy. They're complaining. They can't necessarily find a trade for him, but he comes in, has a great start, and it ends up all working itself out.
Jake DeBrusk happened in Boston with Jake DeBrusk.
There you go. There's a prime example.
Yeah, but when Cassidy got let go, didn't he immediately take back the trade?
Rescinded it.
But Garland would be sick on the Bruins. He'd be great on the Bruins.
And where did he have success? In Arizona when Talk was coaching him. So he's got a little bit of time to work with him here, and I hope it all works itself out.
And his goal was will probably be one of the top 10 passes of the season by Pedersen. He sauced it
Oh my gosh.
just over. I don't know
Lunar.
the D, who's the D-man.
Lunar sauce.
But it landed an inch over the defenseman's stick,
it
directly
Bouchard?
flat. I don't remember. Directly flat on Garland. It was sick from the far wall. So he's a Scituate guy. That's where I'm from. So I'm rooting for him always.
Absolutely. You mentioned Jack Hughes earlier. He had the Big Chicklets text thread riled up the other night. He got 2 goals in that first game, 3 assists in the second game. But this kid, is he top 3 forward already, Biz, Jack Hughes? Oh,
He is so sick.
I would say outside of, I mean, I would probably even put him in McKinnon range right now, but outside of McDavid and McKinnon and maybe Makar, he's the funnest player to watch. If regardless of the team, just to watch a hockey game to see the things that he does.
Floating.
He floats on the ice where when he stops his feet moving and he gets the defender to bite, to stop, to kind of match the momentum, the way he's able to put on the Jets now and then create that separation instantly is becoming second to none. So along with that, with the skill set and his eagerness to even go to those hard areas by like cutting to the middle. I mean, you saw that goal the other night where he had 2. Who was that against? I think it was against Detroit.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's worth the price of admission, and you're fucking toast if this guy stays healthy. You're going to be snipping off $300K to Pasha.
I said
you're
that
done
last year. Like I know that I've been over this a million times. The guy won't even take a $2,300 buyout. That scumbag Pasha. Shout out to Pasha for a funny little man on the street segment in New York, where he just fed the answers to a bunch of randos about how much he hates the Rangers. But Hughes, if you can take a look and somehow go back and watch overtime the other day, it was a one-man show. I've never seen anything like it. He could have ended the overtime 4 different times. And now granted it's 3-on-3, which fits into his game perfectly, but the way he's skating and how quick he looks, and like he's just so sick. His hands, you saw the assists over to Brad on 2 of those goals, just perfect sauce. Brad and him work so well together. And Brad actually had a comment, something about how obsessed Hughes is on becoming better. He goes, you don't see him in the gym much, but in terms of on the ice, his game on the ice, he's completely obsessed with becoming the best possible player he can be. And it is so, I'm with you. There aren't many guys that are more fun to watch play hockey. It's unreal.
I was at that opening night game, and I was saying this to Biz last night. When you watch Connor McDavid live, it kind of just seems like he's like on fast forward. Like he's just he's cranked up a little bit faster than everyone else. Jack Hughes now is like that. Like every time he's on the ice, he's just like quicker and faster and getting to pucks more. And he looks like a man amongst boys.
If you don't have a great gap on him, at least even from a forward perspective, where you're matching his speed early when he's coming out of his own blue line, you're toast. Like I said, he'll often stop moving his feet where he'll get the defender to, and then the minute he's got him, he just turns on the Jets, blows by him. And you mentioned that overtime, he had that same cut in play
3 times, I think.
yeah, where he's not shy to go to the net either. And I think 150 points is not out of the question if he stays healthy.
Whoa.
If he stays healthy,
I mean, McDavid has never had 150.
what did McDavid get last year?
Not 150.
What's Hughes have right now?
He's got 5 points in 2 games.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you basically have to do,
I think if he's healthy, like 120, no doubt.
Okay.
But 150, that's a crazy.
You want to bet?
Well, McDavid had 153 last year.
Okay.
He can probably kiss the Lady Bing goodbye. He's already got 2 penalties. He only had 3 of all of last year.
So that's another thing too. He's got a mean streak going right now. I forget who the defender was, but he gave him he kind of stepped over top of him after he hit him.
He dragged his balls on his head, man.
He dragged his nuts right across his forehead, and then he gave him a 2-handed whack, and he was barking at the official. I thought it was a little soft at the time of the game in which it was called too, but that's another thing you love to see too as a fan, where he's got his snarl and his bite, kind of like we see from McKinnon, right?
I want to see
a bit of a snap show. You want that drive and that intensity from your
makes
leader.
you even better, and it creates space for you too. Even if people say it doesn't, it ends up working out in your favor. But I am interested because Devils fans Pasha and a bunch of others included, they've loved Meyer ever since he came over. I haven't like seen offensively like what he's making yet, and this is included last year, which obviously in the series against the Rangers he took that huge hit in the final game. But it's just more about like I'm interested to see what he puts up for numbers this year, and I think because he's not going to have to get those number one matchups because they're dealing with Hughes, he still should be able to produce a lot. But I haven't seen like the $9-10 million man since he's gotten there.
I think that's a fair assessment. He played well in playoffs last year, didn't have the point production.
But you're not playing well without point production if you're him. You're not.
I understand, but even watching these two first games, I haven't noticed him as much as I'd like if I was a New Jersey Devils fan, handing over that much money for that much term. But sometimes I find like the bigger guys do take a few weeks to get into the rhythm of the season. Just a bigger body guy catching up to the pace of speed. I know like a guy like Rafi Torres. I don't know why that name just came to my head. He was a notoriously slow starter where he would have brutal camps, brutal first 15 games of the year where coach was like, wake the fuck up.
Why is that? Why do you think
he's got to get the train going?
Yeah, just
slow.
But
some
why
guy,
you're saying the bigger guys though? Like why is it bigger guys? Do you think?
I just think that I feel like at the beginning of the season, like it's harder to play, I guess, more physical because they call more penalties. I feel that it takes you maybe a little bit longer to shed some LBs to kind of catch up to these little water bugs that are out there. And I just find that it's notoriously guys who make their money in harder areas where it takes them a little bit longer to get going. What an answer by me to put on the spot.
Great
Good
answer.
job,
Great
Biz.
answer.
Good job, buddy.
Pat me on the back, please. Thank you.
Of course, all three Hughes brothers are in the league right now, but this is the first year, Biz, since 1976 without a Sutter brother or son either playing, coaching, or GMing in the league. First year since 76 wrote a Souther in the league.
Yeah, they got to get that sperm bank working back again on the farm.
Also, Friday, that same game, your boy Logan Cooley, 2 assists in his debut along with 2 shots. The second was unbelievable. The no-look backhander to tie the game up. And did you see the Coyotes? They got a new game belt. Like they picked up either a rugby ball or an Australian Rules football ball, and that's their new game belt.
Yeah, Kells ended up giving out to Cooley. I thought Cooley looked awesome. He ended up finishing the game with 1 assist?
2 assists. Yeah,
he had 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you just mentioned that. But aside from that, he was also making other plays that could have ended up in the back of the net. Like even that shift that where Schmaltz ended up scoring on the short side, he had a few dishes in the midst of that. So as far as a young guy coming in, man, this is a guy who's going to get plenty of reps because he's playing with the Coyotes. They're going to want him to develop. He could challenge, and you've been barking this since training camp, G. He could challenge Bedard for the Calder Trophy.
Yeah, absolutely. I 100% believe that. And I also think if we're redrafting that 2022 draft class, I'm drafting him first overall over Slafkovsky any day. I mean, I know it's still early, but like I love what I've seen from this kid. Slafkovsky's hurt all the time. Simone Nemec went too. I don't know. I just feel like Logan Cooley would have been a better first overall pick.
And I've always talked about Armstrong's ability to draft and develop. It could have been easy to go after the dangling carrot in who went
Slafkovsky.
fourth. Who went fourth?
Oh, Shane Wright.
Shane Wright, right? Everybody, Shane Wright was going to go first. Oh, and all of a sudden he's available third. And he was adamant that he had his guy in Logan Cooley. So shout out to Armstrong for taking him.
And then he was able to get him come out. He wasn't going to come out. And
he announced he's coming back.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I think that him and Clayton Keller have the same agent, right?
Yeah.
And things they probably said, listen, like, you are ready. Like you do not need to go back. And I think there was some unfinished business with Minnesota losing in the national title game. But luckily for Arizona, you got a guy that was ready to come into this league.
They need some luck. I mean, like you've always said, like they just can't get that first overall pick.
Never.
Well, it seems like in that 2022 draft, like you might have got the first overall pick.
So they've had, I want to say this is their third or fourth overall pick. They had Kyle Turris. Who was the other one they had third overall? They had Strome at third overall. And I want to say maybe Mueller was a third overall pick.
No, I think he was fifth.
Fifth? Okay. So they haven't really struck on the highest of picks that they've had. Who was their other third overall? Is that their third?
I'm still trying to find it.
Okay, no. But finally to hit on one along with some of these other young guys they have, like if Gunther can take that next step, we've talked about Michelli.
I think he got sent down, Gunther.
I know, but still, if he can,
I don't hate that.
Yeah, if he can pan out, Barrett Hayton started showing signs of coming around the corner. He was a fifth overall pick, so Bill Armstrong's done a great job, and hopefully these guys continue to develop and elevate this team. But they're going
to be tough this
as
year.
a team. They looked excellent against the New Jersey Devils, and they are not going to be an easy 2 points anymore.
And Armstrong's best move after getting Cooley to leave was Dursey. He scored a rocket in that game, and he looks really good. I loved him in LA. So that's a hell of a signing right there, or a trade, whatever it was.
Yeah, good replacement for losing Gostisbehere, having that other offensive defenseman to come in too. He'll get his reps. I thought Dumbo looked great.
He got a goal too.
Guys love him in the locker room too. He's a blast. So I'm glad we got to cover the Coyotes early and give a shout out to Cooley.
I got you, buddy. I got you, buddy.
how
I got
impressive
you
he's
4 other teams in here too, so don't worry about it. Logan Cooley, right? The 14th player to make his debut on Friday the 13th, and the first one to record a
Why do
point.
you got to go dark on us now? Come on.
No, not the movie. No, it was a good thing, dude.
Oh.
First guy to ever get a point. The 14 players in NHL history, their first day of their career was on a Friday the 13th. He's
Good luck.
I'm not a horror movie guy.
No, me neither.
I literally can't even watch them.
I used to
when I was a
watch
kid,
the
but-
one.
I would have to watch a horror movie in daylight.
Oh,
I'm a big Halloween guy.
I'm
I
not
love
kidding.
Halloween.
I'm a bitch.
Who?
ass.
I think it was the Halloween one. You'd always get to see like a set of tits in them, like
no,
once.
slasher film. Oh, God, yeah.
That's what made me early on be a big horror movie guy.
That's why Biz likes.
You
it.
see
He gets to
the
see some titties.
They have the ski tits, the slope ones.
Oh,
Kinda.
like
banana
the
tits.
woman in Slapshot.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
Those
best
were the
ski tits of all
ultimate
time.
ski titties right there.
Suzanne Hanrahan.
Suzanne Hanrahan.
Oh, yeah.
Suzanne sucks pussy. I know. I know.
I mean, I would pay a lot of money to do a bump off those ski tips.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, come on, wouldn't you?
Jesus Christ.
You bet $3,000 that Hughes wasn't going to get 100 points. You wouldn't pay a Gino to fucking bump off ski tits?
No.
Come on.
For Christ's sake.
Just the
Biz.
bunny hills.
They don't make them like that anymore. What's your favorite? Do you have a favorite?
All right, you kind
horror
of got ski tits on you. I'd do a bump off yours.
We can,
I'll
we
tell
can
you
talk.
this.
We can talk.
I'll tell this. If the Leafs win the cup, I'll do a bump off your nipple, RA. Okay?
Yeah, I guess. All right, we'll commit to that. So that's
Okay, there you go.
Do you have like a favorite horror movie, Biz, or what? Do you like? I know you don't say don't watch them, but
You know
must
what
have
I
seen a
used to
couple of them.
love it?
Yeah.
You know what I used to
Scream.
You know what I used
That's
to
not
love?
even a horror movie,
and you
is
would
it?
definitely see tits in these was the Leprechaun ones. I used to watch those ones.
Oh, geez.
The Leprechaun
I
horror movies?
Never watched them.
Never even heard of
Jennifer
them.
Aniston was in the first one, wasn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first Saw I saw, that wasn't too bad.
The Saws were great. Those were good. That was a revolutionary type horror movie, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
What was the guy's name? The bad guy?
I never saw a Saw. What's his name?
No, the
No.
guy from Sawfish. Jigsaw.
Jigsaw. All right, before we go any further, want to let you know that Spittin' Chicklets is brought to you by Body Armor. From sports drinks to sport water, Body Armor keeps us hydrated all day long. Whether we're talking, watching, or even playing sports, Body Armor is our go-to choice all the time. It's real hydration, real ingredients, packed with electrolytes, vitamins, and nothing artificial. Body Armor has great flavors like strawberry banana, blue raspberry, and a whole bunch more. And the best athletes in the world hydrate with Body Armor, like Ronald Acuna Jr., Christian McCaffrey, Alex Morgan, and the latest athlete to join the team, Joe Burrow. I've said it before, I'll say it again now. Strawberry banana is by far my favorite. Gets me through the day, the night, the weekend, everything. We record late night, need some Body Armor, boom. Slug the water down. After the Chicklets Cup, boom, more of the water. So anyways, go out and get yours. It's available in stores nationwide. Head on over to the Body Armor store on Amazon and get yours today. All right, boys, a few signings since the last time we chatted. We just left Buffalo, and they just locked up their young defenseman, Owen Power, a 7-year, $58.45 million extension. He's got a modified no-trade clause for the last 2 years. It's an 8.35 average annual value. He'll be 28 when the deal ends. He's in the last year of his ELC right now. Biz, what's your take on this? Buffalo locking him up?
Yeah, I think that's the market rate. You saw Sanderson from the Senators get roughly around that exact same number. I think if you ask Kevin Adams, he shows every sign of a true professional where he's going to continue to excel his game. I don't know how high his offensive window.
Especially with Darlene there taking the power play.
Yeah.
time.
I think that it's a home run if he ends up like a Jay Bouwmeester. That would be that's my feeling on it. A guy who might get
Like
you
40 points.
Yeah, like that 40-point range. A guy who is very reliable on the defensive side of the puck. Easily an excellent top four. I would probably put him in that number 3 role.
I think you're hoping for top 2, right? I mean, now granted they have their number 1, but with that money, even though in 7 years the money will look like not much. I think, you're not hoping for a third defenseman with that.
Yeah, but I think overall this isn't necessarily a gamble. You might be paying a little bit high of a price if he doesn't continue to exceed offensively, and that's it. But to get good quality defensemen with his size, it's hard in this league. So you gotta lock those guys in early. And it just goes back to what we said last podcast about. It feels like Kevin Adams is trying to give these guys the confidence moving forward to not have to worry about any type of contract situations, where he's saying, this is our core group of guys. I believe in you. You got the money in place now. Now just go worry about getting better and figuring it out together and going to win some hockey games. But from an overall standpoint, and I said this in our preseason predictions, I thought that I might end up regretting not picking Ottawa as the team to get in as opposed to Buffalo being ready. And that is looking like it's going to be true, because I was not impressed with the team game in the first two games.
The Rangers dominated
them.
The
Rangers did dominate them. I tweeted about this. I thought that fucking penalty on Benson, which ended up, they went down 2-0 on that power play, was absolutely horseshit. All you Buffalo fans know exactly what play I'm talking about, because when they put it on the Jumbotron, you guys lost your minds. But aside from that, they got worked. They haven't looked good. No points so far for Tage Thompson. So hoping that these guys get going soon, because if you find yourself outside of a playoff spot come American Thanksgiving and you get off to a slow start, you guys know what the numbers tell you. If you're outside of a playoff spot,
you're in one.
You're in one, especially in a division where I think Detroit has played very strong. Do I think that they're better than Detroit? Absolutely. But as a team, Detroit's looked good out of the gate, and Ottawa, after dropping that first one, they look fucking strong. And if they get Norris back with those three defensemen and Korpisalo kicking, look out.
And Buffalo, in terms of Buffalo, the second game, bright side, Benson.
Two
apples. Looks so good. I mean, if he's like a couple inches taller, they ain't getting him where they got him in the draft. So I think they probably hit a home run with that kid. The fact he came in, made the team, and then looks this good. The Devon Levy thing, probably not his best through two. And I think that's probably why they did keep those three goalies, right? Because I know, granted, they could have lost one on waivers, which Kevin Adams was talking to us about when RA was in one. But I think that they're not exactly sure. Like, everyone's kind of hoping Levi could maybe be like a dark horse Calder guy, but it's just so hard. Like, it's not common for a guy to play college and then be a starter in the NHL the next season. It's just it's not easy to do. The league is such a big jump, and so hopefully
goaltending being the hardest position to jump in
easily. So luckily they do have three guys there in terms of Comrie and what's the other guy's name? The other goal.
It's a Euro name, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. But Buffalo, that's not the start they wanted. Ottawa, with Brady Tkachuk, is like, you see his celebrations after the goals, like he's just flexing to the crowd.
Net front, you can't move.
No, you can't move him. And like, he's just battling away. He's never out of the play. And yeah, Ottawa looks great. Now, granted, they didn't have Stamkos. Tampa didn't have Stamkos when they beat him on Sunday.
Or a goaltender.
That was yeah, that kid, I was happy for him. I think it was I can't look up his name. He was 29 years old, getting his first start for Tampa. And he made some great saves, and he gave up 4. They got the empty netter, but it was more about just Ottawa just putting their will on them and not stopping. Joseph got a beauty. So if they can get Norris back,
Matt Tompkins was his name.
Yes, yeah. So congrats to him. Waiting that long to get your first NHL start, that's a great story. But I don't know about Norris. He's not on long-term IR, so you got to think he'll be back soon.
Both of those teams, Buffalo and Ottawa, dealing with a major injury up front, because Buffalo needs to get Jack Quinn back, just like Ottawa needs to get Norris back. Norris is a 30-goal guy?
Yeah, I mean, and the deal he signed, they're expecting big things. So that's just what Ottawa needed. And Brady Tkachuk gave an interview, one of those interviews that's kind of broadcast to the entire arena, and just mentioned, we love playing in front of you. The crowd was unreal. The owner was getting involved with the fans.
Handsome guy.
Yeah, the guy's a stallion. I mean, if you can be the billionaire and a good-looking guy,
probably got a wrench on.
What an absolute animal. So, and then in Detroit, right away, DeBrincat. Boom. That's what you're hoping. Him and Larkin have that connection. Larkin gave him a sick dish for a goal the other night. And so Detroit's coming out flying. Sider looks good. That's one thing where I think if Husso can kind of have a bounce back here, they're going to be better than I thought. But it just seems like of the three teams we've talked about for at length in the offseason with Detroit, Ottawa, and Buffalo. Detroit and Ottawa's first few games look a lot better than the Sabres.
Yeah, and shout out to the Liver King, the NHL Liver King, Chychrun, 2 goals. So that top 3 defense for Ottawa is lethal.
Yep.
They can bring it both sides of the puck. And between Shabbat, Sanderson, and Chychrun, they got some good depth on D, RA.
Good.
Some good depth.
4 goals already for Brady. Another signing, the Avs locked up Devon Taves, 7-year, $50.25 million, comes out to $7.25 a year. He's got a no-move clause for the first 2, a modified no-trade clause for the last 5. He'll be 37 when the deal ends. He's currently in the last year of a 4-year, $16.4 million deal. Whit, about where you're expected?
A win-win. Right. And I think he definitely left some money on the table. If he goes to the open market, speaking of the open market, we're done. We're done ever having
free
good
agency's
free
over.
agents.
Pedersen next year.
We won't be. It's if you're a really good
he'll
player,
have Aquilini's balls in a vice by Christmas.
free agency now will be not fringe guys, but they'll be, the depth guys and the 5th and 6th defensemen. It's just, you have to lock up your talent. You can't allow a superstar to get to free agency and lose him for nothing. And so that it ruins July 1st in terms of covering it and rooting for the old school big signing days. But Devon Taves, while leaving a little bit on the table, gets to be in a city he loves on one of the best teams in the league that will be for the next, I'd say, 5 years competing for the Stanley Cup. So it's like you're set for life if he wasn't already. He now has that monster deal. He now gets to play with Makar for the rest of his career, basically. And then if you're Denver, you're like, yeah, maybe at the end that deal's like a little high, but you're 36, 37. They don't care about that right now.
Yeah.
They care about the next 5 seasons, the next 6 seasons, competing every year for the Stanley Cup. So if you're an Avs fan, you're fired up. Devon Taves is set for life, and the GM, Joe Sakic, is looking at it like we have a great number 2 defenseman now locked in.
I'm actually surprised with that AAV that he couldn't get that 8th year. Just because of how I was shocked it came in at 7.2, right?
Yeah, 7.25.
I know. Yeah, that's
and some people could say, well, he gets to be the number 2 guy behind Makar, and playing with him is obviously makes things a lot easier. But I think in an open market with the lack of free agents, I think a team would easily give him $8.5-9 million. Obviously, you can't give him that 8th year, and that's where maybe because of the lower AAV, I thought he would get it. But you just said it's a win-win for both sides. This is a guy who gets to solidify playing with a great team they're going to be a cup contender that at least the next 3-4 years with the way that they're built and the way the cap's going up. So you got to be happy to just stick around. And we all know that things living in Colorado and not necessarily under the gun in a big market and having a good team like that, it just makes life a lot easier when you know you're going to be winning 45 to 50 games every year and having a chance at winning a Stanley Cup. So Sakic keeps doing his thing. They keep that core together. And since we're on the Colorado topic, I think that we have a new most underrated player in the league. Rantanen is the most underrated player.
When's his deal up, Jay?
He signed a long-term deal. And
He's locked?
He got a nice ticket too. I think he makes $9.5 million. He signed an 8-year deal, but because you have McKinnon there and because 9.25 just
till 2025.
I'm buzzing with my numbers.
Yeah, you're feeling it right now.
Holy
Hey,
shit.
he is. I think I said it last year. He's 10 years ago of Evgeny Malkin. He reminds me of Malkin. The way he moves, his shot, how big he is. He is. You're right. Not talked about enough, and it's because of McKinnon and Makar. Star player.
He makes the fucking play every time.
And he's a horse.
He's a horse.
Those Finnish guys,
just
dude. Big ass, strong on their feet.
He can crush his vodka too. And I think the first time in a long time, or it might even be the first time ever, where a player had 4 points in back-to-back season openers. And he did so in that first game. I forget who they played. It was LA. It was LA on the TNT broadcast, and he put on a show. And overall, that Avs team is looking filthy right now.
The Ducks claimed Ross Johnston off a waiver from the Islanders. He's got 3 years left at $1.1 million. Nice little heart and soul type guy, a little gritty grinder.
Who?
Ross Johnston. Yeah.
Oh, no. Sorry. I literally blacked out as soon as you started talking.
It happened.
Who did he sign for?
Well, he was signed with the Islanders, and they waived him, and the Ducks picked him up. He's got 3 years left at 1.1. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He's tough as nails. No worries.
Absolutely.
Also, I wasn't trying to be smart. I don't want this guy suffering.
How you sounded like an owl. It cracked me out. Who?
The Devils extended head coach Lindy Ruff with a multi-year deal. He was signed through this season, so they take away any what do you call it? Lame duck status.
Well deserved.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the fans chanting "Fire Lindy" opening night to having that season they had, and then
Well,
looking
Posh is chanting it again because they lost to the Desert Dogs.
yeah, Posh is a dirtbag.
Terms were not disclosed. Some news about one of the former coach, Barry Melrose, who's been working with ESPN for close to the last 30 years. Very sad news. We want to send our best wishes to Barry. He announced his retirement from ESPN because he has Parkinson's disease, so he's going to retire and spend some
Great
time
video
with
that ESPN put out, or I think I saw Steve Levy and Bucci Grass put it out. I remember when I started kind of really getting into the NHL, I always say it was the 94 Rangers Cup run, and he was just NHL Tonight with Bucci Grass back in the day. He had the great suits. He had the gray wings in his hair, and I mean, what he did coaching LA to the finals and like how highly Gretzky spoke of him on that video, kind of narrating in it. He's always been a part of kind of American hockey fans' lives. I think everyone's always enjoyed. He's done the Final Four with Buccigross in terms of college hockey. So we're really thinking of him. That's just brutal news. And hopefully he's able to spend a lot of time with his family and deal with this as well as he can, because that was shitty news to see.
Yeah. What he did for the game as far as a coach and in media, he's been going at it. Kelly Cup champion, I believe, in the ECHL. Or no, sorry, Calder Cup. And he won another championship as well, didn't he, as a coach?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but imagine 30 years ago that Kings team was in the finals versus Montreal.
And that's so
Crazy.
I'm glad you brought that up because Wayne got to touch on that on the broadcast, because when they went to the Stanley Cup final against Montreal, and they beat Toronto in that conference final. I think one of the best games Wayne said he ever played. He said that he really let the players' personalities shine. He always wanted the players to be themselves. And
Back then, that wasn't common.
Back then, that wasn't common for coaches to allow that. So to have a players coach back then and to make life so enjoyable and be the amazing guy that you keep hearing throughout wherever you hear about Barry Melrose, all you hear about how unreal of a guy he is. It was cool to hear Wayne talk about him on the broadcast. So our heart goes out to the family, and hopefully he can he can keep battling here.
Mem Cup and a Calder Cup.
Mem Cup, that's what he won. Yeah. Memorial Cup.
Well said, Biz. Another guy on TV we talked about a little while ago, Kenny Albert. I think we should probably bring him on right now. His book, A Mic for All Seasons, wherever you can buy books. So let's send it over to Kenny Albert.
Who was this? What was the politician's name? The story he tells?
Oh, Bloomberg.
He tells this fucking Bloomberg story. It's one of the funniest stories I've ever heard on the podcast. So to Kenny, you're a true pro, buddy. Thank you for coming on. A true gentleman. Interested for you guys to
buy the book
podcast.
All right, before we go any further, here's a few words from our friends at Chevy. Chevy has convenient ways to research and shop electric vehicles online. When researching, utilize Chevy My Way. Vehicle specialists and hosts give a virtual tour and help answer your questions. When you're ready, you're able to buy online by reviewing available EV inventory or build your own at participating dealers. You can do as much or as little of the buying process online with help from a participating dealer. You can configure finance and lease payments, apply for credit, upload documents, and finalize your purchase through our secure checkout process. You can even schedule vehicle delivery at home or at the dealership. And if you'd prefer to purchase the traditional way, in person, their nationwide dealer network is available to help as well. Learn more at chevy.com/electric. Well, we're very happy to bring on our next guest. If you're a sports fan here in the States, there's no doubt you have heard many of this guy's incredible calls over the years. He's the only announcer in North America who currently calls games for each of the 4 major leagues. You name it, he's done play-by-play for it. Of course, he's on TNT right now. In his new book, A Mic for All Seasons, My 3 Decades Announcing the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, and Olympics, is coming out in October. You can pre-order it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, and other places where fine books are sold. It's great to welcome to the Spittin' Chicklets podcast, Kenny Albert. How are we doing, my friend?
Kenny!
Great to be with you guys. Just saw Biz last week in Atlanta. Love the podcast. I've been listening for years, and it's an honor to be on with you guys.
Oh, it's an honor to have you.
Thank you very much. I got to first meet you at the Winter Classic when Minnie played, I think, was it St. Louis that year?
Oh, that was so
minus
cool.
20 out.
Yeah, it was cold. It was cold that weekend.
Yeah. But that jersey, for anyone watching on YouTube, that's a sick old, is that an old All-Star Game jersey behind you?
It is an All-Star Game jersey. I'm not even sure exactly where I got it. It's from the late 80s, early 90s. No number on the back, just the NHL logo on the front. And funny story. So during the pandemic, we didn't go meet with players and coaches in any of the sports. We did Zooms. And I was working a Buffalo Bills game. And Brian Daboll, now the head coach of the Giants, was their offensive coordinator. And I had never met him prior to this Zoom call. And he's a huge hockey fan. He grew up in the Buffalo area. He was born in Welland, Ontario. And he turns on his computer, and the first thing he says, is that a Wales or a Campbell conference? So he's old school. He knew.
Oh, yeah. Right away, man. Right away.
It's a good-looking jersey. I guess, Kenny, was it a classic case of wanting to do what the old man did? Obviously, your dad, Marv Albert, one of the great play-by-play guys of all time. Was it just I want to do what dad did?
Yeah, right from an early age. I was 5 or 6 years old, and my parents gave me a tape recorder for my birthday. And I was never pressured. I was never told, you have to do this. You have to announce games into the tape recorder. You have to go into sportscasting. But I loved it right from the start. Both my father and my two uncles, his brothers, Al and Steve, were longtime play-by-play broadcasters, hockey, basketball, boxing, other sports as well. So, they would come over for holidays and special occasions, and I was a little kid, and it was like I was listening to a podcast or the first radio station. They would be telling stories about the games they did and the teams and the players and the coaches, and I would just try to soak it all in. And when I was old enough, I would start to bring the recorder to Madison Square Garden, Shea Stadium. I would sit in an open area with not a lot of people around, and I would call games. And it's really all I ever wanted to do. I did some writing in high school and college, but always wanted to do play-by-play. And a huge break when I was in high school on Long Island in 10th grade, a local cable station came to my school by total coincidence to film a girls' basketball game. And I was there to cover it for the school paper. I volunteered. They didn't have any announcers. They clipped a microphone on my shirt. I sat in the third row behind the team bench. The people around me probably thought I was nuts talking to myself. And I spoke with the producer on the phone the next day, and he offered me this opportunity. Didn't get paid, but who cares? I was in high school. I just wanted the experience. So it was like an internship. And I would do games all over Long Island, hockey, basketball, baseball, soccer, lacrosse, you name it, probably 75 to 100 games. And I would bring friends along as color commentators. And I felt like I had such a head start because back then you couldn't really do this until college. So I had 2.5 years of these repetitions, actual games, that were broadcasted on television, on delay, on local cable. And it was just great. And I would also tag along with my father. I would do stats for him when I was old enough at hockey, basketball, football, and really learn via osmosis. Just listening, watching the preparation, listening to the communication between the announcers and the production truck. And, I get the question a lot. There are, thousands of people who go into the family profession, whether it's doctors, lawyers who have parents in the business. But when you grow up around it, it's the best teacher you can ask for.
Did you come out of the womb with that voice, that deep voice?
Well, you might be surprised, Biz, about some of the stories in the book. It's a crazy story. I was actually born 3 months early, so I'm not sure what I sounded like back then. I was 1 pound, 15 ounces.
No way.
And was in an incubator for 2.5 months. So I don't think I had the voice right away. But, it's funny. My kids refer to it as my, quote, fake announcer voice. I'm not sure what I do differently when I'm on an interview or once the microphone comes on, but I guess I sound a little different when talking in real life. So my daughter told me before I had to make a speech for her, she said, you better not use that fake announcer voice.
Just running your show. So you got this recorder. So you would go to games and you would record on it. And would you go home and would you listen over to work on your game, so to speak?
Yeah, I would. And even before I started bringing it to games, I would use it in my bedroom. So I was 8 years old at the time, 8, 9, 10 years old. And I set up my bedroom like a studio. I had the desk and the bed in the middle and the TV, and I would call games off the television. And we kind of came full circle during the pandemic when we were all broadcasting a lot of games, not on site, off monitors. So it brought me back to those days, but I would do it at home. I would bring it to games. When I was in college, I went to college in New York at NYU, but I would go to Rangers and Islanders games. And I had access because I had an internship at the NHL office. And then I started filling in on some Islander radio pregame shows. So I had access to sit in the press box, and I would announce games into the tape recorder. And you get better with each and every rep. I would listen back, and my real big break at that time, after the Cox Cable in high school, I was asked to fill in on 4 Islander games on radio. I was a senior in college in 1989. And my first NHL game was a radio broadcast, Islanders in Winnipeg. Now, most people at that age or at that time in their lives, you try to get the minor league job first, and then you use those tapes to try and get to the next level. In my case, I actually had 4 NHL tapes and sent them all around, and was so lucky to get hired by the Baltimore Skipjacks of the American Hockey League, the Capitals affiliate at the time. And 2 years in Baltimore, the greatest. I wouldn't trade it in for anything. Not only doing the broadcasts, but helping out in PR and marketing and sales. I was a terrible salesman, but I did it in the summer.
You had to do it all, right?
Anything they wanted you to do. Go pick a player up at the airport. Unload the equipment, right? We had a 10-hour bus ride to Portland, Maine, and Rick Bowness was the head coach of the Maine Mariners.
Yep.
And we arrived at the arena, and there was Rick Bowness, the opposing coach, at 8:00 in the morning, helping us unload the gear off the bus to bring it into the locker room for that night's game. But 2 years in the AHL, and I know you guys played at that level, and so many memories. Guys that played in our team, coached. My first year was 1991, so our assistant coach was Barry Trotz, and I was his roommate on the road for 2 years. To save money at the minor league level, the 22-year-old radio broadcaster was assigned to room with the 26-year-old assistant coach. So for 2 years, my roommate was Barry Trotz. The Capitals acquired a veteran defenseman named Joel Quenneville for depth on defense. They wound up sending him down to Baltimore. So for half the season, we had Barry Trotz and Joel Quenneville on the same bus. 32 years later, they're the second and third winningest head coaches in NHL
That
history.
is fucking insane. I just want to go back to one of the first things you said when you were doing it early days and like going around to these gymnasiums. You said you would bring your buddies around to do color commentary. You must have some funny stories of bringing some of your buddies around.
They would come along, and then even with the Skipjacks, they didn't hire a color guy, a color commentator for radio. So I would use injured players. Friends would come along on occasion. You guys are probably familiar with Dave Starman, who does college hockey. He's one of the greatest voices in college hockey. He's been an NHL scout. He's a coach on Long Island. So I knew Dave from New York. We played pickup hockey together back in the late 80s at Sky Rink, the old rink on the 16th floor of a building near MSG. And he said to me, if you ever need a color analyst, he heard I got the job in Baltimore, I'll meet you wherever. So he would drive to New Haven, Springfield, Binghamton, just to get the experience. He would meet me on the road and do color with me. There was one game in Binghamton where the equipment wasn't working. We had this antiquated radio equipment. We had to set it up ourselves. Dave and I actually called the game handing a phone back and forth to each other. And it was the first cell phone. It was an actual rotary phone. And we did the entire game. At one point, he handed it to me during play and said, here, it's for you.
It looks like you should have a rotary phone in that office with that wood paneling. I love that old school look.
I turned to my left earlier, right before we started. So I have the wood paneling. I have newspapers and VHS tapes. I'm an organized hoarder. But I save all of my game sheets. And the next time I have a specific team, I'll look back and pull out some of the information. So I have a file cabinet with about 95% of my actual game sheets, spotting boards in football, etc. And I happened to pull out. So this is from October 11th, 2006. Does that date mean anything to you, Whit? October 11th, 2006.
October 11th, 2006.
It wasn't his first game against the New York Rangers where he scored on Lundqvist, was it?
No, because I didn't make the team out of camp.
This was Henrik's second season, so I'm not sure if he scored on him the first year. But
no, that was my rookie year, though.
06-07.
Yes.
So
because I didn't make the team out of camp, and then I got called up, and my first game was against the Devils, but my first goal was against the Rangers.
What do you got on him, Kenny? What do you got?
First year goal, you didn't score any the year before?
I don't think so.
All right. So this game, because I specifically have on this sheet that two of your teammates, Jordan Stahl and Chris Letang, both scored their first NHL goals.
Oh, so no, that was my second year then. I remember this game.
Too. So Jordan Stahl and Letang scored their first NHL goals in the same game. I have no recollection of that, by the way. Good thing I saved this stuff. And Ryan Whitney, 2 goals in the third period on Hank. You gave the Penguins a 4-3 lead, assist from Crosby and Colby Armstrong. Then Nylander tied it for the Rangers. Then you score to make it 5-4 from Armstrong and our friend Dom Moore.
Yep.
Brendan Shanahan ties it 4 minutes later, and then Crosby wins it at 1956 of the third period. A wild game.
Holy
shit. I remember it well because my goals were on ESPN Top 10, and I watched it over and over and over that night. I didn't go to bed.
Just like, cranking himself off.
I'm the man. I own MSG.
Putting one on your belly button.
I looked it up. Your first career 2-goal game.
Yep.
And how about the other guys that scored in this game? I mentioned Stahl and Letang. Yager scored in the second period.
Oh, my God.
Shanahan scored in the third period. And then Sid scored the game winner.
Jeez.
I mean, what a game. Crosby had a goal and 3 assists. Yager had a goal and 2 assists. 6-5, Fleury and goal. But you probably can't see it. But right there in the third period, Whitney, 2 goals in my file cabinet.
2 goals, Biz. Try that one out, buddy.
Yeah, no, never had one of those.
Last time I had 2 times opening the door for somebody getting off the ice.
Yeah, last time I had a 2-goal game was I think a novice, and I think I might have had 4 in that one. And my dad came down through his hat on the ice when I got the hat trick. Thanks, Dad.
And then asked you to go get it.
Yeah, exactly. One of the cool stories too is in on your 6th birthday in 1974, your father took you along to a New York Rangers game, and for whatever reason, one of the statisticians at the time had to leave the game midway through, so you took over as the stats guy.
Right. So that was in Washington, and actually, I know for years it was on the internet that it was 1974 6th birthday. I got it right in the book. It was 7th birthday, 1975, because that was the Capitals' first season. So they wouldn't have played in February 74. But we did go to Washington, and it was my birthday present. My birthday is February 2nd. So he took me along to Washington. We did the, walk by the White House, took pictures, did some sightseeing. And then I was going to the game that night between the Rangers and Capitals, tagging along. He was doing the radio with Sal Messina. And I'll never forget it. The game was delayed like 2 hours. The Ice Capades, one of the ice shows, Disney on Ice, had been in town the night before. So the ice was still colored blue and red. They couldn't get it. They couldn't get the colors off. So they didn't face off until about 9:30. So whoever the statistician was that was working the game had a really early flight the next day. So he left after the second period. So I took over as a 7-year-old and wrote down the goals and the assists. It wasn't really heavy lifting. I had to listen to the public address announcer, but I wrote down the goals, assists, the time of the goals. So I guess that was my first official foray into the world of professional broadcasting, actually working at some kind of a sporting event.
What is the most fun for you, like sport to broadcast? Because I think it's incredible, and I'm kind of curious. Is there one harder than the other? But for you, what is your favorite, and then maybe what is the most difficult?
I get that question a lot when I speak to broadcasting.
I'm a bad question asker.
And no, it's a great question.
Basic bitch.
I always tell people it's like asking which kid you like best if you have 4. And I'm fortunate enough to have 2 kids and work in 4 sports. But growing up, loved all sports. With my father broadcasting hockey, basketball, football, boxing, I got to tag along to a lot of different sports. But I always loved, hockey was probably a little bit above the others for sure. Skated from a young age, loved playing hockey. Growing up, we had a local rink, Twin Rinks in Port Washington on Long Island. And I would spend the entire weekend there. They would have public sessions in the afternoon on Saturday. Then they would have intramural hockey. They would have puck shooting on a Friday night. We would shoot against goalies. So I spent so much time at the rink, probably from the age of 8 until about 13 or 14, and then played on a club team in both high school and college. But again, really loved all sports. And my goal throughout high school and college was to broadcast hockey on the radio. That was what I wanted to do. And again, my first jobs filling in on the Islanders, Baltimore Skipjacks. That was it. And then, like I said, I worked a variety of sports during high school, and then got hired by the Washington Capitals and Home Team Sports in 1992. So that was my first full-time NHL job for 3 years, was in DC, and also was assigned to do many other sports, college basketball, filled in on some NBA and Major League Baseball games. Really, whatever they asked me to do, I would never say no. So I had that variety, the experience. And then, you know, an amazing stroke of luck for many of us in 1994, the 94 season, but late in 93, Rupert Murdoch makes this crazy bid. Fox didn't even have a sports department at the time. You know, they had The Simpsons and Married with Children and a couple of those shows you guys would remember. And Rupert Murdoch makes this crazy bid for the NFC package. CBS had it for about 38 years. And Fox won the bid. They decided to hire the best of the best, Pat Summerall and John Madden, as their top football broadcasters. Veterans, Dick Stockton and Matt Millen, a terrific number 2 crew. And then the decision was, we're going to hire 4 young play-by-play announcers who all have a little bit of experience in the business, and we're going to try and grow with them. And the 4 of us who were hired at the time, aside from me, it was Joe Buck, who's gone on to an unbelievable Hall of Fame career, Kevin Harlan, who's had a great career now at CBS and Turner doing football and basketball, and Tom Brenneman, who was at Fox for 25 plus years doing football and baseball. And it's hard to believe that this is year 30. I had the Jaguars-Colts game to begin the NFL season on Sunday. And, you know, that really changed all of our lives. The fact that Fox took a chance on 4 young broadcasters between the age of 25 and 32 and hired us to do NFL games back then. So, you know, when I look back at 30 years of football, 33 years of hockey, so fortunate. You know, I've worked in Washington, Baltimore, MSG Network, Rangers Radio now for 28 years, national hockey on NBC and now TNT. So hockey and football, it's like apples and oranges. I mean, they're both so great. You know, there's nothing like the hockey playoffs, and, you know, love each and every hockey game that I get to work. And, you know, football, it's only 1 game a week. There are millions and millions of viewers. The preparation for both I really enjoy. Football is a lot more just because of the nature of the sport and how many players are on the teams, and you don't do the same teams every week. And then I also get to do about 15 basketball and 10 or 12 baseball games a year. So I enjoy all of them. You know, love going to many of the historic ballparks and stadiums. But, you know, hockey and football have been the staples, I guess, ever since I started. But hockey was the goal. That was the original goal. And just so lucky to call 2 of the last 3 Stanley Cup Final Series on TV and 8 others on radio, and to be hired with the unbelievable TNT crew, you know, with Eddie Olczyk and Keith Jones the last 2 years, and now Brian Boucher and the unbelievable studio team with Biz and the gang. You know, couldn't be more excited to get started this season.
Yeah, Kenny, looking at these stats, it's incredible. I mean, 2014, you called all the conference final games in both sides, both East and the West, New York, LA, Montreal, Chicago. Do you just kind of go to like robotic mode just to like, you know, just to go from one place to the other? Because it's so much, travel just wears you down.
That was a crazy time. And, you know, the way that all came together is, I've done the Rangers radio, like I said, since 95, and I don't do all the games. The MSG executives are so great about allowing me to juggle the schedule when there's a Turner assignment or a Fox assignment, but I try to get to as many as possible. And that year, the Rangers advanced to the Cup final. So after they beat Pittsburgh in the second round, it was on to play Montreal, the series in which Carey Price was injured in the first game, the collision with Chris Kreider. Rangers win the series in 6. Henrik was unbelievable. One of the best games I've ever seen him play in Game 6 to advance to the final. But that was also the first year that I was asked by NBC to work the other conference final. Doc Emmerich and Eddie and Pierre worked the one series, and I was asked to work the West, and it was the Kings Blackhawks, the 7-game series. Alec Martinez scored the overtime winner in Game 7 in Chicago. So, you know, all of a sudden, as the second round is moving along, and the Rangers they come back to beat Pittsburgh in that Game 7. They were down 3-1 in the series. So now the schedules come out for the conference final. I'm trying to figure out flights and piece it all together. And There were a couple of off days during that stretch. I missed the first game in Montreal because of logistics. It was impossible having to be in Chicago the next afternoon, but worked the last 12 games of that round, all of the games in the West and the last 5 games in the East. And there were red eyes, LA to New York, morning flights back to LA, Montreal, Chicago. It all worked out. And somehow the voice stayed strong. I think the adrenaline carried me through, but it was such an exciting time. And then the next year, the Rangers actually got to the conference final again and played Tampa. So there was a lot of back and forth between New York, Tampa, Anaheim, and Chicago in 2015.
Unbelievable.
Jeez, wow.
Shifting gears, my buddy, so he didn't want to tell me the story, but he said it's unbelievable. He didn't want to ruin it for me. He said there's a Mike Bloomberg story about requesting an interview after an ALCS game. And he goes, Biz, you're going to fucking lose it. So I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, that's in the book. So it's a 2-part story. So Michael Bloomberg was the mayor of New York, and I was assigned to work the post-game. I was the sideline reporter. One of the rare times I wasn't doing play-by-play. I was hired to do the sideline and then the post-game locker room celebration. It was the Yankees-Red Sox, 2003, the Aaron Boone game. I know some of you might not want to reminisce about that one, but the Red Sox did beat them the next year. So Aaron Boone hits the home run. I'm down in the bowels of the old Yankee Stadium, watching on about a 12-inch black and white monitor with some police officers down on the locker room clubhouse level, because as soon as the game ends, it's the 11th inning, I have to sprint to the winning locker room. So Boone hits the home run. I go to the left towards the Yankee clubhouse. I almost get trampled, by some of the trainers and other staff members who are running out to celebrate out on the field when the Yankees won the game. So now I do the interviews. We have Joe Torre up there and Mariano Rivera, some of the other Yankee folks. And it's like 1 a.m. because the game went 11 innings. It started at 8:30. Yankee Red Sox games always go 4 hours anyway, right back then.
Oh, God, yeah.
So we wrap it up. The producers in my ear telling me to throw it back upstairs to Joe Buck and Tim McCarver. And I hear them then throw it to the late local news. They sign off. They're off the air. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Mayor Bloomberg off to the side of the podium waiting. It's apparent that he probably wants to be interviewed next on national television. So he had a PR person with him, a younger gentleman, who comes up and whispers in my ear, "Can you interview the mayor next?" And I said, "Well, we're off the air. They're in the local news already." And he says to me, "Can you fake it?" So he didn't want to lose his job. So the mayor comes up, and I said to the cameraman, I said, "Can you look into the camera, make sure it appears like you're recording this?" So Mayor Bloomberg comes up, and I have to make up questions, for the next 3 or 4 minutes. And I knew he grew up in Boston, and his mom was a Red Sox fan, and now he's been the mayor of New York. So I asked him 5 or 6 questions. I told him it was going to be taped. I didn't want him to think it was live at that point, but we did the interview. Fast forward 6 years later, in the new Yankee Stadium, I'm in the same spot. Post-game interviews after the Yankees-Angels. Yankees clinched Game 6, ALCS. Now, it's a much bigger platform. We're in the new clubhouse. It was the first year of the new stadium, first or second year. And same thing. I'm doing the interviews. Joe Girardi's the manager. I have A-Rod and CC Sabathia and Jorge Posada. All of a sudden, the producer, Pete Macheska, who I just had dinner with last night, by the way, he's in my ear saying, so I'm turned to my right, interviewing one of the players, and I could sense somebody has come up onto the podium. And he's right over my left shoulder. And the producer, Pete, says to me, "Don't turn to your left. Don't ask the mayor a question." So now I'm aware that it's the mayor 6 years later. And he's telling me not to ask the mayor a question. Don't even turn to him. Now, this shot was on national television. The mayor's in the shot on TV at that point on Fox. And it turns out that it was an election week or an election month. And if I had asked Mayor Bloomberg a question, his opponent could have requested equal time on Fox on a national broadcast.
Yeah.
So they were well aware in the truck about the FCC equal time rule. The mayor's people weren't happy about it. They threatened Fox the next day that they thought the mayor was embarrassed because he was seen on TV and I never turned to ask him a question. They threatened to take away the parking spots for Fox at Yankee Stadium for the television.
For fuck's sake.
But once it was explained, the equal time rule, they backed off and they understood. But Those are a couple of the stories.
This
that
Bloomberg seems like a piece of work. Where's he at now?
Count his money somehow.
He could probably buy the entire network if he wanted to, but
He just bought TNT. You're done, Kenny.
Yeah, those are a couple of stories I tell in the book. Along with, I mentioned Barry Trotz earlier. So he was my roommate during the years in Baltimore. And he still loves telling people this story 30 years later. Whenever I see him, if he's coaching or now in the future in town as the general manager with Nashville. So I would interview either Trotzy or Rob Laird, our head coach, prior to every game for the pregame show. And we had a game on the road somewhere, and I did a taped interview on a cassette machine with Barry. And he said something that came out funny. Whatever it was, the word didn't come out right. I didn't use it on the air. And what I did was on the bus ride home, I played it for a couple of players, and they got a kick out of it. Whatever, I don't remember what Barry said, but it came out wrong. So he found out about it, of course, right? The hockey locker room bus culture. There are no secrets. So Trotzy heard I was kind of making fun of whatever he said. He said, I'll get you back one day. Don't worry about it. So about 4 months later, we take our only plane trip of the season. We're going up to the Maritimes in Canada to play like 6 games in 8 days. So we fly all day. We had 3 flights. We went Baltimore to Boston, Boston to Halifax, Halifax to Sydney. And it was a small plane, a regional jet. There might have been 5 other people on it aside from the team. And we had been told that because of all the hockey equipment, the bags, the sticks, that our personal luggage might not make it till the next day. It might have to come on flights a day later. So we fly. It's about 4 p.m. We land in Sydney, Nova Scotia, really small airport. We get off on the tarmac, and I go down the steps, and there's a gentleman at the bottom of the steps, an official, in an official airport uniform, and he has a clipboard, and he has some names on there, and he points to it. He says, "Is this you?" I said, "Yes." He says, "Come with me." I thought he wanted me to identify what the missing luggage was going to look like so they would know whose it was the next day. They bring me into this small room, and he starts interrogating me. Is your passport valid? Do you know anyone that's in trouble? Do you have anything illegal in your luggage? And I knew that I hadn't done anything, but I couldn't figure out what was going on. And then they bring me into an unmarked car. These 2 older gentlemen. There was computer equipment in the front of the car, so I knew it was an official car. It wasn't being kidnapped. And they start driving. And again, they're asking, do you know anyone that's been arrested? Are you sure your passport's valid? And, I'm not really thinking that it's a practical joke. I have no clue what's going on. All of a sudden, they pull up to what looked like a hotel. And they said, we have one last question. Do you know Jimmy Wiseman, who was the longtime security chief for the Capitals? And we all knew him. And his brother was the police chief up in Sydney. They set this whole thing up. They would do it every year. They would get somebody, a trainer, a player, a rookie broadcaster. So the fake arrest set up by one Barry Trotz in Sydney, Nova Scotia back in the early 90s lives on to this day.
You know what they say about payback, but one other guy you worked with at that era was Keith Jones, absolute character. You must have some Jonesy stories because he's a beauty.
Well, Jonesy, he joined the team. He joined the Skipjacks late in my second season calling the games. He had played at Western Michigan, and the Capitals had a lot of draft picks either in college or junior that came in at the end. Steve Konowalchuk was another who had a long NHL career. And I remember Jonesy sitting behind me on the bus on a couple of those trips, and we would chat. And I called his first professional goal in 1992. He scored a goal for the Skipjacks, first goal as a pro, and I was calling it on the radio. I still have the scorecard, just like yours, Whit, and I've showed it to Jonesy. But he's the absolute best. You guys have had him on. You've gotten to know him. So I would see him through the years during his playing career, and then he became a broadcaster with the Flyers, so I'd bump into him. And then we became colleagues at NBC. He was mostly in the studio, so we didn't really work a lot together, a couple of games here and there. But then the last 2 years with Eddie Olczyk and Jonesy have been just so much fun, both in and out of the booth. 2 great hockey people, obviously. And, we're sad to lose Jonesy, but we're so happy for him and wish him all the best. And you won't find a better person than Keith Jones. But I was there when he scored his first goal. Ironically, Eddie and I sort of go back even further. In 1984, I was 16 years old, and I collected autographs at the time. And Eddie was 17, and he was on the U.S. Olympic team that was heading to Sarajevo. He was on the diaper line with Pat LaFontaine and David Jensen. They were all 16, 17 years old. It was the first Olympics after the miracle, so they had high expectations. And for some reason, I decided to write one player on that team a letter. I don't even know where I sent it. I guess to the headquarters in either Colorado Springs or somewhere in Minnesota. Somehow I had an address. We used to do that back in the day. We'd actually send letters with stamps on them. And in 1984, I decided to send a letter to one Eddie Olczyk at the age of 17. And he sent me back an autographed team photo that hung on my wall throughout the rest of my high school and college years. And sure enough, I wound up meeting him when I started broadcasting, and now we're partners. So 39 years ago, amazingly, and Eddie had a great line, and he was nice enough to write a blurb, Eddie and Jonesy both, for my book. And Eddie started off by saying, "Have you ever met anyone through the U.S. Postal Service?" Well, that's how we met 39 years ago, and now we're broadcast partners on TNT. So
That's amazing.
The hockey world's a small world.
It's amazing.
So he was incredible back then, obviously, Edzo. I think he was probably the second best player behind Mario at that age. And he was telling me a story when we were at TNT that Laval came to visit his parents' house, and they had 50 grand cash at that time, and they offered him $50K to go to Laval to play with Mario Lemieux. So there was a chance that and then his parents ended up making the decision where they're like, no, we're going to do what's best for our son, and he didn't end up going. But could you have imagined that him and Mario would have been playing together?
Crazy. He wound up coaching Mario, ironically, later on. But Eddie was the third overall pick that year. It was Mario Lemieux, Kirk Muller, Eddie Olczyk. So he was selected third by his hometown Blackhawks, the team he grew up watching. And that year in Chicago, the Blackhawks and the Bulls both had the third pick in the draft. The Blackhawks selected Eddie Olczyk. The Bulls selected with the third pick, Michael Jordan.
That is wild.
That's
and as Eddie
man.
likes to say, one of them has a statue outside the United Center.
Was it Fox who introduced the puck that glowed on the ice or whatever? Like, what were you guys thinking about that when you were calling games? Like, obviously you guys wouldn't see it, but you would look over to the TV and you'd see it.
Right. That was David Hill, who's a brilliant man. He's from Australia, and he was put in place by Rupert Murdoch to run Fox Sports along with Ed Gorin in 1993, 94. And Fox acquired the rights to the NHL in 95. And we had it for 5 seasons. Doc Emmerich and John Davidson with a lead broadcast team, and Sam Rosen, Joe Micheletti. I worked with a number of analysts, Craig Simpson, Dennis Potvin, the late Peter McNabb. So it was a terrific time broadcasting NHL games on Fox. Fox's motto for both football and hockey at the time was same game, new attitude, and they like to try new things. It was David Hill, who I just mentioned. He was the first on Fox Football. Now, whatever game you watch in any sport, you have the score up on the screen, right? The score, the time, up in the left-hand corner normally. That wasn't the case before that. Fox Football in 1994, thanks to David Hill, was the first time. It's called the Fox Box because he invented it. And you watch old games from prior to that, and the score would pop up on a graphic every so often, but it wasn't up there continuously. And there were still some other networks then that wouldn't do it for a couple of years because they felt like during a basketball game, for example, if a fan happens to tune in and it's a blowout, if it's 60-40, that the viewers would turn the channel. So they didn't want people to know the score right away. They wanted viewers to stick with the game.
That's a little whack.
And it was David Hill who brought over the glowing puck. He had been a longtime TV executive in Australia and England, and they had tried it out there. And he also saw it on some of his kids' video games, some early version sports video games back in the 80s and 90s where they would use all kinds of graphics and technology. So it was ahead of its time. I know a lot of people north of the border didn't like it because they felt, it broke from tradition. But now you watch a golf match, you basically see the glowing puck.
The Tracy,
you watch baseball, you see the glowing puck. So David Hill was ahead of his time by a generation. My feeling back then was if it helps the viewers who aren't used to watching a puck go around the rink, then why not, right? But now you see it in so many sports.
Yeah, it's funny when you watch old games, just the scoreboards, and like you would have to wait till halftime of the NFL game just to find out what the other scores around the world. Now you get them instantaneously.
Now we're bitching about digital boards.
Yeah, exactly.
What's next, Kenny?
There were clean boards, white boards, nothing on the ice. The players looked a lot slower, right?
Yeah. Ken, was there any piece of advice your dad gave you about the business that really like was a great piece that like you kind of, I guess, guided you through your career?
There really wasn't one specific piece of advice that he gave me. He it wasn't like he would sit me down and hold lessons. It was mostly learning via osmosis, by watching and listening. The biggest thing I learned from him, though, was the preparation.
Mm-hmm.
I would see it at home. I would see it when I would travel with him in hotels and on airplanes. He was always doing something, reading, writing notes, preparing the charts. And that's the biggest thing that I learned. And I'm an over preparer. I'm the same way that he was. I feel like that's one of the most important aspects of this job. A typical football game, it's probably 20, 30, 40 hours a week of preparation. Now that includes going to practices and talking to players and coaches and having the production meetings. But Monday to Thursday, we're on our own, watching each team's previous game, preparing charts, reading, going through statistics. Hockey and basketball, it's not the volume of hours, because in football, there's over 50 players on each team. It's different teams every week. With hockey, we become so familiar with the teams. They play 3 or 4 games a week. We're watching, we're working other games. So we are preparing, but it's not the volume of hours that goes into it, similar to a football broadcast.
Did he say, "Don't even think of going in"? My catchphrase. I mean, yes, that was his big call for the year.
People ask me once in a while to do it for them, but that's his thing. People go up to him, on airplanes, in men's rooms at airports, and he'll ask them to do it if they bring it up to him, and he'll grade them on it. I think he would have given you an A on that one.
Oh, well, thank you.
That was pretty good, RA.
Thanks, appreciate it.
No, never really, tried to steal any catchphrase. Back in the day, there were some T-shirts made up with team logos, and yes, so I would wear the T-shirts, but never would try to mimic the catchphrase.
Kenny, any legendary, like, maybe fuck ups by you on air or anything, or maybe something that sticks out, like, oh boy?
Yeah, I hope not. You hate to make mistakes, but it happens. It's a live sporting event, and you might mention a wrong name or fact or statistic, but I think you have to, be human about it and correct it. People realize that you're not perfect. There are some funny stories. I mentioned earlier calling a game through the phone. On one occasion, I remember a hockey game in LA. I felt the hiccups coming on.
Oh,
and
no.
You never know, right? You never know when it's going to come out. So, we all have the cough button. They call it the cough button in front of us to knock the microphone off. So, I would try to reach for the cough button so the hiccups hopefully wouldn't go out on the air. One of my claims to fame might be that I worked a 20-inning baseball game and never went to the bathroom, never left the booth to go to the men's room.
Were you holding it the whole time?
The whole time, 6 hours and 45 minutes. I could have gone between innings. Now in hockey and basketball and football, you have the intermission, the halftime between periods, so you can go. In baseball, you only have 2 minutes if you're the play-by-play guy, so you don't have a lot of time. Never felt like I had to go, and you don't expect the game to go to that long. We had the 4 overtime game this year, Carolina, Florida. I know, Biz, you guys were in the studio.
Well, yeah, like I was going to say, so baseball must be tough because there's just so much dead air.
Right. So you actually asked me that earlier about the most difficult sport, the easiest sport, and I got sidetracked along the way. But people always ask me, and they think hockey would be the hardest to do play-by-play.
Easy.
To me, it's the easiest. It's like riding a bike. I've done it
because it's so fast too. Done
it for 33 years. So on radio, and I love. I'm so fortunate that I still get to do some radio because it brings me back to the early days. That's where you learn the fundamentals. You're calling the game. You have to be so descriptive. Biz, I know you did it in with the Coyotes for a while.
I loved it.
The play announcer has to be so descriptive. You have to give the time and score a lot more than on the TV side. On the television broadcast, you can talk a little bit less, leave more time for the color analysts to come in. So to me, hockey is the easiest. People think I'm crazy because of all the changes on the fly, the pronunciations, the European players, but you just, you pick it up pretty quick. Basketball is similar to hockey, but it's slower. It's 48 minutes of continuous action, but more stoppages with whistles and fouls. Football to me is the most rhythmic. It's one play and then it's 20 or 25 seconds. It's another play, 20 or 25 seconds. Now, for 10 years, I worked with Moose Johnston and Tony Saragusa, the late Tony Saragusa, who was the absolute best one of the most fun guys to be around. Biz, you would have loved him. You just would have loved him. Live life to its fullest, would always want to be, when we had free time, out doing some crazy activity. But he was our third member of the crew, but he wasn't in the booth with us. He was down on the field, similar to Jonesy, Bush, Pierre Maguire, when that second analyst is down at ice level between the benches, and you don't have that verbal communication with them where you could turn to your right and see them and give each other some hand signals. So it's a challenge, and really learned a lot during those years about leaving more time for the analyst or for Goose to come in from the field. But football, I set up the play, I call the play, I wrap up the play, and then I get out of the way to let the analyst come in. Baseball to me is the most challenging because you have all that downtime, and I don't do that many games. Not as much downtime this year with the pitch clock, so that's helped out a little bit. I've called other sports, boxing, which is a lot different. There's no ball or puck. I've been assigned to call some track and field.
There's nothing you'll say no to. You'll do it all.
You know what? I learned that early on, that don't say no. The more versatile you are, the more people that might want you to call an event. Now, the one sport that I felt like I had no clue what I was watching, I was about 26, 27 years old, working in DC, and I was assigned to a college wrestling match. And I did all the homework, and I watched some other events, and I actually spoke to an Olympic wrestler. If you guys remember Jeff Blatnick, I was connected with him, spoke on the phone for a half hour. So we start. Luckily, I had a great color analyst with me who had been a wrestler. I was the traffic cop. I would give the names, their record that season, where they're from, what year in school. And then when the match started, I had no clue. So this guy took over, and he was great.
They're grappling down there. You're like, and he's got his ball, his groin, I mean.
I had no idea. Now, for some of the other sports, I've actually purchased track and field for dummies, volleyball for dummies, horse racing for dummies to start the preparation. When I was assigned to volleyball at the Olympics a couple of years ago, actually sat down with our local high school girls volleyball coach, and I said to her, teach me everything, the strategy, the rules, the history, and it was a tremendous help, a great lesson in learning a new sport.
Kenny, I was going to get a pickleball court put in my backyard, and I was going to throw like an annual pickleball tournament. Would you, by chance, maybe want to call it one year?
I played 2 times this summer, so I've not played 3 times in my life. But if you have a pickleball tournament, I would love.
I don't know what your day rate is. I don't know if I can afford it, but just maybe send me an invoice. I'll see if we can cover it from the Barstool Sports.
No charge. Just send me pickleball for dummies.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. What type of advice would you have for any like young broadcasters coming up? And there's some unbelievable young guys in the pipeline, but just advice that you would give if anybody wants to do it.
Oh, there are some great young broadcasters who are working in the NHL, around the minor leagues, and I hear from a lot of them throughout the year and listen to some of their work. And the biggest advice, there's a couple of different points. Get as much experience as you can, whether it's in high school, college. These days, when I was in college, we had the radio station at my school, and that was it. And we had to fight for airtime with the DJs, with the music shows. Now, if you're at a college, you can broadcast games over the internet. I did a Q&A at Seton Hall University in New Jersey yesterday and went over to visit the radio station, and they were telling me about all the different sports they do on the radio station, on the internet, volleyball, soccer, lacrosse, basketball, baseball. So there are just so many ways to get involved, and also behind the scenes jobs as well. On a typical NFL game that I work, there's probably 75 people involved in that broadcast. The NHL games biz that we do on TNT. Not only do you have the announcers, but you have the producer, the director, the cameramen and women, the graphics folks, the replay producers. I can go on and on. On a personal note, my daughter, who studied communications in college at Syracuse, had a great internship with the athletic department. She would be involved in editing highlights at sporting events at Syracuse that they would then put out there on the school's Instagram and Twitter, on social media. And she's now working at the NHL office in New York as a video editor / producer. So it's not only for the broadcasters. There are so many jobs out there in sports at various networks behind the scenes as well. But the biggest advice would be just do as much as you can. Internships, college radio stations, college newspapers, podcasting, whatever it might be. In front of the camera, in front of the mic, behind the scenes, just do as much as you can.
And then I was going to follow up with, like, as far as like iconic games that you've called, what do you think would be your pinnacle, your number one, where not only just a great game, but maybe it was a championship, like the call itself?
There are a couple that you guys might not, they might not be the ones that come to the top of your head at first, but I assume you're a Blue Jays fan, Biz?
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
Joe Carter?
Joe Carter.
So, well, more recently, I had the Bautista call, the home run, bat flip.
Oh,
No way.
I was there for that one. And ironically, I do less baseball than the other sports. That's the one that I get asked about the most when I speak to a lot of these broadcasting camps, college students. People ask me all the time about that Bautista game back in 2015. Hockey, I mean, two men in a name. The last two of the last three Stanley Cup finals with NBC, Tampa Bay, Montreal. And then this year, of course, with Vegas and Florida, getting to call the Stanley Cup on national TV in the U.S. is, just such a huge thrill and career highlight. Was actually on the call for NHL radio in '94, the Rangers Canucks, when the Rangers won for the first time in 54 years. And then I've worked 6 Winter Olympics for NBC, men's and women's ice hockey. And the one that stands out is the women's gold medal game in 2018. I was in Pyeongchang, South Korea, with AJ Malesko and Pierre Maguire, and we called the gold medal game. Canada had won the previous 4 Olympics, and the U.S. won this one in a shootout, defeated Canada to win the gold. So that's right up there. Football, I've had a number of memorable games. Once worked a Sugar Bowl game with Terry Bradshaw and Howie Long as my analysts.
That's
Notre Dame,
amazing.
LSU. There was a New Orleans, San Francisco playoff game in 2012. 4 touchdowns the last 4 minutes. Drew Brees and Alex Smith going back and forth up and down the field. But then I have certain moments, not necessarily full games, but I had, if you guys remember, Terrell Owens stomping on the Cowboys star.
Oh, yeah.
Did that game?
No
He's the quarterback,
shit, eh?
man.
And
That's awesome.
I did Michael Vick early in his career. He had an iconic 46-yard overtime touchdown run in Minnesota, zigzagging his way up
Oh,
the
my
field and
God,
ran out
yeah.
the tunnel. I had the Victor Cruz 99-yard touchdown from Eli Manning for the Giants against the Jets on their way to the Super Bowl. Actually called the Super Bowl. It was the international feed, the world feed, so it wasn't on in the U.S. And again, if I have a feeling some of you might be Patriots fans, but it was the Giants-Patriots Super Bowl 46. But had the opportunity to call a Super Bowl for other countries, not the U.S. In hockey, just so many memorable games, playoff games, overtime, game 7s, that 4 overtime game this year. Have done a number of triple overtime games. So, again, too many to name, but the Bautista game, the Cup final games, some of the other ones that I mentioned, the U.S. Olympic women winning the gold in 2018. Actually, last year, and again, I'm not even doing this on purpose, guys. I've already brought up the Red Sox Yankees. I brought up, a couple of other Boston events, but I actually worked last year the crazy ending, the Patriots in Las Vegas with the laterals and the Chandler Jones interception right at the end of the game. One of the wildest endings in NFL history. So I had that.
I don't know what game that is. You guys know what it is?
Oh yeah, it was almost like the Stanford band game, kind of like just
Right.
like the
And
craziness at the end of
I
it.
actually mentioned the Stanford band during the call. It was a tie game, Biz. It was tied with about 10 seconds left, about to go to overtime. And the Patriots on the last play start lateraling the ball. One of the players, I think, thought they were losing, forgot that it was tied. And the last lateral wound up getting intercepted by Chandler Jones of the Raiders, and he brought it back for a touchdown.
Oh, no.
It was a Monday.
Belichick
and it was,
the coach?
Was it a night game or was it a 4
Well,
o'clock?
4 o'clock
Yeah.
Eastern game.
Belichick was the coach? Was he losing his mind?
Oh, I'm sure.
It
it
was
was.
Holy
last year, right?
It was last year.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was oh shit. Okay, I didn't know it was that.
regular season game. Yeah.
And then
Okay.
speaking of Vegas, Biz, we had a great night with the entire TNT crew going to the David Blaine show. Biz was
Oh
called up.
yeah. So how do you know? Or your daughter works for him?
My sister.
Or
My
sister.
my
Yeah.
sister works for David Blaine, the magician, illusionist. So
Wow.
we took the whole crew, Hank and Liam and Anson.
How about
Eddie,
Pete Davidson was there, and
Eddie
he was
Jones, Davidson was up on stage.
Pete Davidson
Vince
was there
up on
just with
stage.
his buddies, like do at a bachelor party,
Yeah,
and he got
yeah.
called up by David Blaine. He was hilarious. He was for 5 minutes. He was making everybody laugh.
How about when our group went down and we got to see the tricks, the card tricks from close range in person?
Oh
It's
yeah,
amazing,
this
isn't
guy
it?
is nuts.
It's crazy. Like you just like, how do they do it? You just want like, how do they pull this stuff
Well,
off when
he's
you're
like-
2 feet in front of you?
Biz was 3 inches away from him. It's crazy.
But he's also doing like mind over matter stuff where he's putting his body through things that like most people just can't. And like, I don't think that's not necessarily magic. It's just, he just somehow tricks his mind to
It's an illusion.
there's no pain there.
10
Whatever.
minutes in a water tank, not breathing. That was
Yeah,
one
he
of the-
did. He did 10 straight minutes in the water tank by just getting these deep breaths beforehand. All right, you were laughing your ass off there like a couple seconds ago. What was so funny? The David Blaine stuff?
Oh no, just it's crazy. I've hung out with a magician late night down the Cape one time, and I'll never forget. He put a penny in my hand. He said, "Close your hand." He tapped my wrist, and I opened it up, and there was a dime in there. It was like,
Right.
how do people do this shit?
Yeah, we saw similar things with cards, right? With
Yeah.
you and Henrik, he would flip cards. You know.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense how quick they are with their hands, and I couldn't even imagine how many reps it takes to master all that. But yeah, hands like Whitty on the PP.
Well, the crazy thing is sometimes too, like if I guess they don't give away their tricks, but I've had a buddy show me like it's pretty simple once you see how they do it, but it just looks so ridiculous. It's unbelievable. I didn't know that about.
Are you just sports? Like, what do you do as a hobby? Like, what do you do in your spare time?
That's a good question. I enjoyed the summer when I had a lot of free time. Worked a couple of baseball games here and there, but actually snuck away on vacation during the All-Star break with my wife last year for I think the first time ever. We went down to Cancun. I had 4 or 5 days. In the summer, I
It
like
was the
playing
first time she heard your real voice.
You're like, what do you want to talk about, honey?
That might have been. But enjoy playing tennis. Did play pickleball a couple of times this year. Watching TV, movies. But when things get going, it's a lot of. I always tell people from October through May, it's absolutely crazy. October, November, December, the football, hockey crossover, some basketball as well. So it's mostly work, but. And my wife likes to tell people this too. There's so much work and travel involved, but I never feel like I'm working. I've never felt like I've worked a day in my life, which is a great feeling. Sometimes the early morning travel, might get a little old, but no, I mean, we did a lot of family stuff over the summer, went to a couple of weddings, went to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. One of my former partners, Rondé Barber, was inducted, which was a great weekend. With 2 kids, they're 24 and 20, and I grew up around it with my father and his crazy schedule, so I was totally used to it. When my kids were young, I was barely here on weekends, probably away 48 out of 52 weekends a year, but they got used to it. My wife's been so great about the schedule we've been married now 27 years, although we joke, I've only been present for about 14 of the 27. I've been on the road for the other
That's why
half.
you're still married.
Exactly. But no, they've all been great about it. And I would try when my kids were young during the week. I was around more often than most parents would be who go to an office somewhere. I might have games at night, occasional travel, but I would try to drive to school, pick up, go to various activities during the week. When my older daughter was 2, we signed up for this sports class where she would roll around the mat and kick a soccer ball and et cetera. And I think it was myself and 14 moms who probably wondered, why does this guy not work? How is he able to bring his kid to this class every Monday at 1:00?
Watching the soap operas with him.
We had Joe Buck on once, and he had us dying laughing, talking about how every fan base says he hates their team, right? And it's kind of a thing I think that you play-by-play guys deal with. Have you caught heat from fan bases always complaining that you're rooting against us?
Oh, absolutely. With social media, you can't hide from it, and all sports fans think that the announcers hate their team when it's a national game. Fans are so provincial, and I get it because I do the Rangers and I do a bunch of Knicks games, so I work on the local side as well. Biz, from the Coyotes days, but fans love their local announcers, and they should. Those are the voices they're hearing on most of the games. So when the national guys come in for a Wednesday TNT game, for example, that's not on, whether it's MSG or Nesson or any of the, the local regionals, we're 50-50. We're calling the game right down the middle. They're used to hearing 70-30 or 80-20. In football, it's different because there are no team announcers on television. On radio, yes, but every football game's on one of the national networks. But they still think we're rooting against their team. So I'll hear from fans in various cities. I'll even convince people when they ask me about it. Troy Aikman's not rooting against the Giants if they're playing the Cowboys. I know for a fact, I've worked with him. He's calling the game right down the middle, 50-50. The one time I do have to kind of remind myself is when I am doing a Rangers game on TNT or NBC back in the day. I do have to remind myself to get just as excited when the other team scores, because I am affiliated with the Rangers. So it is a conscious conversation that I have with myself. But no, I get it. Again, fans love their local announcers. And I think when it really comes to play in hockey, basketball, and baseball is after that first round of the playoffs. In hockey and basketball, the local announcers still do the first round on TV. And that's one of the beauties of radio. The radio announcers go all the way through to the Cup final. But no, it's pretty funny to look at some of the comments. We don't take too many of them seriously. We also get blamed as broadcasters.
The jinxes.
For shutouts, ending, for no-hitters. If you mention there are no-hitters.
I would just be stirring the pot.
He hasn't missed a field goal in 700 years.
Looks like he's going to get a shutout here. 10 minutes left, not really facing much traffic.
I wish that I had the power from hundreds of feet away to affect what goes on the ice, but I really don't.
You mentioned Troy Aikman. He must be a blast.
I've been so lucky to work with over 200 analysts in the various sports, and I worked 3 or 4 games with Troy. The consummate professional, great guy, 3-time Super Bowl champion. When I worked with his teammate, Moose Johnston, for 10 years, who was the fullback in those great Dallas teams, Moose and Tony Siragusa, just the amount of respect they would get when they would walk into a team locker room or a meeting with a coach. They were both Super Bowl champions, great players, Pro Bowlers. I worked 3 years with Rondé Barber, who's now in the Hall of Fame. Now I'm working with Jonathan Vilma, who was a terrific player, Super Bowl champion with the Saints. I've worked games through the years with Joe Namath and Terrell Davis and Dan Fouts. And I mentioned Howie Long and Terry Bradshaw, so many other Hall of Famers. And it's just great to soak in the knowledge from them and listen to their conversations with some of the players and coaches. We would meet with Brett Favre, for example, before a football game. We have meetings with players and coaches prior to every game. And he would sit there for 45 minutes, and he was the most regular guy. And he'd be telling stories about fishing and hunting and his family, and meetings with Peyton Manning and Eli Manning and Aaron Rodgers. Last year, we had a Buccaneers game in Cleveland. Tom Brady sat with us for half an hour.
No shit.
Sometimes when it's a home game, they have places to be after practice. They have family stuff. But when they're on the road and they're just in a hotel, they're a little more relaxed. And Brady sat with us for a half hour that day in Cleveland. Peyton Manning has a photographic memory, and he's one of those guys that meets you one time, remembers your name 5 years later. And funny story. So I'm in Denver with Eddie Olczyk this past playoff. We had Game 7 of the Kraken Avalanche, and Seattle wound up winning the game. So it's about 20 minutes before the game, and I've met Peyton 5 or 6 times. We've had production meetings with him. Don't know him well, but I've sat with him in these meetings on occasion. And I walk out of the booth to go get a soda right behind in the back part of the press box. And all of a sudden, there's Peyton Manning. He was walking back through the press box to get to the owner's suite. He was sitting up there for the game. And I stuck out my hand to shake his hand. And before I had a chance to say anything, he said, "Hi, Kenny, Peyton Manning." He actually introduced himself to me. Like, I don't know who he is. But
come on.
That's one of the great things about him, is he's just so down to earth, and actually introduced himself when I ran into him at that Avalanche game.
When you're sitting with Tom Brady, were you guys just talking normal stuff? Or you guys asking him football questions about these crazy games that he's been through and experiences? Because, that's a modern day legend right there.
Yeah, it was mostly football, about the game the next day, and but it's funny, you scope out the situation, see what kind of mood they're in. I'll get to a Belichick story in a minute, but if they seem like they're rushed and want to kind of wrap it up, you don't go certain places.
You don't go full court press on him,
you can
Kenny?
tell, right?
He was loose. Plus, he was already signed with Fox. He's supposed to start doing games next year. So our crew joked to them about, being a colleague in the future, not necessarily with us, but with Fox, with one of the other crews, most likely. But I
You
sense
think,
that
you think he's going to follow through with that? Like he's going to be calling games next year?
Isn't it like 100 million or 200 million or
I
something
was
too?
about to say, I think it's 37 million a year from what I read. So
Oh
if
my
you were
God.
him, would you turn that
Jesus
down?
Christ.
So anyway,
I'm schlepping it up for cross country every week for fucking
Biz is
peanuts.
looking for like free Chipotle.
Biz
Yeah,
sisters
come
of
on.
the poor over
I
here.
can't even win a fucking my own ball hockey tournament.
you might bump into him on a flight. Who knows? But anyway, I had done my research that week, and I read somewhere that I don't have the exact numbers, but I read that this was his, I think, 7th career game against Cleveland, and he had faced 6 different starting quarterbacks in his games against the Cleveland Browns. So the situation presented itself, and I said to him, "All right, I got some trivia for you. You've played the Browns 6 times. Who were the 6 starting quarterbacks?" And he actually got 4 or 5 of them off the top of his head. It was pretty impressive.
No
It was
shit.
pretty
That is
impressive.
impressive. That is impressive.
So that-
What was
that
the Belichick story?
Oh yeah.
So with Belichick, I've probably done 7 or 8 Patriots games through the years. They're primarily on CBS, on Fox once in a while. So you just know going into the meeting, he's not going to give you much about his current team, about X's and O's and strategy. So you know not to ask those questions. So my analyst last year, Jonathan Vilma, had a good relationship with him because before he was drafted in 2004, he met with Belichick at the Combine, and they took a liking to each other, even though he never played for him. So Jonathan loosened him up a little bit with a couple of questions about the game. But I have been around him a couple of times where if you ask him a historical question about his time with the Giants, with Lawrence Taylor, or his time at the Naval Academy when his dad was a coach there and he was a ball boy tagging along, if you ask him the historical question, he'll give you a great story and sit there for a half hour. So they were playing the Lions, and the Patriots wound up winning the game last year, 29-0. Bailey Zappi was the quarterback that afternoon for New England. So I said to Bill, I said, you're playing the Lions this weekend, and I know that your first full-time coaching job in the NFL, he had been an intern with the Baltimore Colts the year before. I said, I know in 1975, you were an assistant special teams coach with the Lions. What do you remember? What are the highlights from that year? Figuring maybe he'd give us a good story that we can use on the game. And sure enough, he went into this entire story about all of his memories coaching on the offensive side of the ball. He was the assistant special teams and helped out with the tight ends. So he wasn't always a defensive coach. And he talked to us for about 20 minutes about how much he learned about defense that year by coaching the offense and learning from the defensive coaches. And then he told a story, which was, I had never heard this before. It was incredible. He said, we were the first team to ever use 2 tight ends on the field at the same time with Detroit in 1975. They drew up this formation. He was one of the coaches. And he said to this day, over 40, 45 years later, they refer to that formation as, the name of that formation is Detroit, because he was with the Lions that year. And for how many years have we seen, whether it was Gronkowski and Aaron Hernandez, and then Gronkowski and other tight ends later on, we've seen the 2 tight ends on the field have great success for New England, but it all started with that Lions team in 1975. So if you go in well prepared with 3 or 4 questions, not about the current Patriots, but about some of the historical stuff, he'll give you great answers.
Doesn't he loves like reading like old war books too, doesn't he? He's like big on the history of the United States.
He is, and he's a hockey fan. So Dave Maloney is my partner on Rangers Radio. Biz, I know you know his brother Don.
Yeah,
very well.
Awesome GM, smart guy. He could squeeze a nickel so tight the beaver will shit.
Well,
especially working for the Coyotes.
Got to through the years with the Coyotes, right now with Calgary, but great family. I've known them forever. Worked with Dave now for 19 years. So I was once going to do a Patriots game years ago, and Dave told me, he said, I doubt Bill Belichick remembers this, but when he was an assistant coach with the Giants, he came to skate with us with the Rangers. Dave was the captain of the Rangers, and they practiced at Rye Playland in Westchester. And he said, Bill came with us to skate, and then he came to the bar with us after practice. So sure enough, again, I kind of scoped out the situation. We were done with Belichick. This is 10 or 12 years ago. And as he's walking out of the room, I said, by the way, Coach, I don't know if you remember Dave Maloney, former captain of the Rangers back in the day. He says hello. He sends regards. And Bill's face lit up. He said, "Oh, tell Dave I said hello. I had a great day skating with the Rangers, back 30 years ago." So he remembered. He has
If you could get him to crack a smile, you should have like the Nobel Peace Prize.
When I mentioned that, he then said to me, he mentioned Chris Kreider, who grew up in the same hometown, I guess, that Bill lived in at one point. So he said to me, "Oh, speaking of the Rangers, how's Chris Kreider doing?" So he's still following his hockey.
That's awesome.
Grinelli sent over some cool notes on your career and stuff just leading into this interview. And one of the things mentioned a cool Mark Messier leadership story.
So this was back in the late 90s when Mark was with the Rangers. And it was one of my first couple of years with the team. And it was late December. The team was on a road trip to Western Canada. And we were in Vancouver. We had an off day. And then there was a game in Edmonton the next night. Now, back then, the Rangers had so many former Edmonton Oilers on the team. They had Messier, Kevin Lowe, Craig McTavish, Charlie Huddy, Adam Graves, Jeff Bukaboom. I'm not sure if they were all there on this particular day, but there were 5 or 6 guys on this Ranger team who had family or friends in Edmonton. So the team was scheduled to fly in the afternoon, and then all the former Oilers had plans to meet up with friends and family that night. So we get on the charter in Vancouver, the team plane, and the pilot gets on and he says, "There's a bit of a mechanical issue. They're going to get another part, but it's going to take 4 hours. So we just have to sit and wait." So the team, traveling director, arranged, he checked out the commercial flights from Vancouver to Edmonton. And he said, "We're able to get 6 plane tickets. So the former Oilers who have plans tonight, you guys can go on a commercial flight from Vancouver. The flight's in an hour, and then we'll meet you there."
They're like, "No, thanks."
Mark Messier, who was the captain, stood up and he said, "We traveled as a team. Either we all go or none of us go." And they waited. They waited for the airplane part to get there and probably missed their plans that night in Edmonton.
Cheapest, man. Ken, I want to ask, what's the biggest upset you ever watched, whether you call the game or just as a audience member or observing it? What's the biggest upset in sports that you've ever seen?
Wow, that's a great question. I've never gotten that one before. There was a bowl game I called. It was Alabama and Utah, and it was a Sugar Bowl, the second Sugar Bowl that I worked. Nick Saban coaching Utah. They were heavy favorites, and a couple of offensive linemen wound up getting hurt in the first quarter, and Utah took a 17-0 lead or 21-0 lead and went on to win the game pretty easily. So that might be the biggest one that I could think of. I mean, I've worked football games that were probably big upsets through the years, but that's probably the biggest one that comes to mind that I worked, the Utah-Alabama Sugar Bowl game.
You ever met a president of the United States of America?
I met George Bush Sr. There's actually a picture behind me. My father was one of the hosts of the baseball pregame show on NBC back in the late 80s, and George Bush had played baseball at Yale. He was a big baseball fan. So they arranged an interview at the White House. So they were going to do an interview in the Oval Office, and my whole family came along, my mother, my younger brother, younger sisters. And we took a White House tour, never expected to meet the president. And then at the end of the day, when they were wrapping up the interview, somebody came and got us and called us in, and he said, "The president wants to meet you." And we took a photo, which I have behind me. He was such a gentleman. Funny story out of that one, actually. So my younger brother, who's 6 years younger than me, he was in high school at the time. And the next day he went back to school and told his teacher where he was. And she believed him because she knew that our father was a sportscaster and that he wasn't making up a story that he went to the White House. But as a joke, she took an absentee slip that they used to have to fill out in high school and sent a letter to the White House. It said, "Dear President Bush, Brian Albert tells me he was at the White House with you yesterday. If that's the case, can you please send this absentee slip and mail it back?"
That's how they used to do it?
Sure enough, a couple of weeks later, it came back to the high school. It said, "Dear Mrs. Buckman, Brian was with me. Please excuse the absence, George Bush."
That is so fucking cool. You're like the Forrest Gump of sports.
Unreal.
You have a story for anything.
It feels like it. Working with so many analysts through the years. A couple of friends tell me that I have a photo for everything on my phone. When Jimmy Buffett passed away last week, I have a photo with him and Bill Moss, who was my partner that game on the field in New Orleans. He's a big Saints fan. So I pulled up a picture with Jimmy Buffett. I have a picture with Taylor Swift. She was sitting 2 seats over. I was calling a Knicks game, and the celebrities sit right next to the TV area. So got a picture with her at halftime. So you never know what might pop up on the phone. I have a great picture with Biz and Henrik Lundqvist from the David Blaine show. We took a
just
selfie.
don't hand it over to Babcock.
Yeah, no comment on that one. And you guys probably know more of the details than I do.
Yeah. Kenny, sorry to put you on the spot there, buddy. I jammed you up a little bit.
He's like, keep me out of this, Biz.
He's like, gotta go.
Yeah. Ken, I told my dad we were interviewing you, and he said, you're fantastic, runs in the family. Tell him like you, I'm a big fan. I just want to pass that along. And you mentioned Howie Long and Chris Kreider. They actually both lived in this town. I'm Charlestown. Howie grew up here till he was like 15, and Kreider left as a young kid. So in that vein, I got a Boston trivia question for you. Who's the only guy to play for the Red Sox, Bruins, Celtics, and Patriots? I figure in the four-sport vein.
Played
like
for all three teams?
Well,
It's the organist. It's the organist, right?
Yeah, John Kiley. Yeah, it's a little trick question. Yeah, John Kiley played for all 4 Boston teams. Good job.
They have that same trivia question in New York about the former organist at Yankee Stadium. Eddie Layton also played for the Knicks and Rangers, played the organ for all 3 teams.
How good do you think you would be at Sports Jeopardy? Do you think you'd be that? Who's the guy who ended up going on that crazy run?
Pretty good. You know, I probably wouldn't be in the top 10 or 20% because there are some people out there with crazy minds who study this stuff all the time. But no, I would do pretty well. I would do very well. You know, I've been doing the Puck Doku. Have you guys been doing that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I get shriveled on there when my name's one of the pics. They don't have a picture for me. It's just a peasant
no
look
picture.
for
What's
myself.
going on? But no, I'm pretty good. Did you like that, Biz? I got the right answer from RA's question there about the organist.
Oh yeah, you're buzzing. Yeah, I figured there's not much that you don't know about sports.
You didn't think I would get that one?
No, I wasn't surprised that you nailed it.
Now here's one of my favorite sports trivia questions, and he just passed away recently. Who's the only person to play on an NBA championship team as a player and coach in a Super Bowl as a head coach?
What?
It's from way back.
Wait, play? Could you repeat that? Play as a
played for an NBA championship team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Head coach in actually multiple Super Bowls.
What the hell?
No clue.
I'll give you a hint. Minnesota.
Bud Grant.
Bud Grant. You got it.
Nice.
He played
already.
in the NBA.
Bud Grant was actually, he didn't play much, but he was on the Minneapolis Lakers
No
back
shit.
in the early 1950s as a player and then coached in the NFL.
Wow. Hey, did you grow up in Port Washington?
I did. Port Washington, Sands Point from when I was 5 or 6 right through high school, and then still went back in the summers during college.
When I was prepping for the interview, a couple of names jumped out at me, guys who are from the hometown. Burt Young, Paulie from Rocky from that neck of the woods. You ever meet him by any chance?
I heard he lived there at one point.
And, Citizen Kane himself, William Randolph Hearst. He was a Port Washington guy too, huh?
I think so. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Too. We had Bjorn Borg at one point, the tennis star.
Oh, yeah.
Huh. He lived in Port Washington. We had a lot of the 1986 Mets.
Don't please. Ken, you're killing me with this stuff.
Oh, okay. You've won 3. You've won 3 since then. But a lot of the 86 Mets, some of the Islanders live in the area in some of the neighboring towns. But it was a great place to grow up. Haven't lived there in a long time. I've been over in Jersey across 2 bridges for the last 24 years, but did grow up in Port Washington.
Okay, so you've been so generous with your time. My last one is, who was the most starstruck person you've ever met? Like when you met them, you were like, like you got jammed up. You've met all these famous people, Taylor Swift, you named them all.
Well, when I was about 14 or 15, it was Wayne Gretzky. He was the first one. And I have a picture behind me from that first meeting. And now, you know, how lucky are both of us? And he wrote
insane.
one of the forwards. He wrote one of the forwards to my book, along with Walt Clyde Frazier. But I'll never forget the first time meeting Wayne. But, you know, a number of I had the good fortune of meeting a lot of pro athletes when I was young, due to my father and my uncles. So whether it was Dr. J, Julius Erving, getting to meet him on a number of occasions. I actually I mentioned the photos. I have a photo with Andre the Giant. I was about 15 or 16 years old. So I actually have a photo with Andre the Giant.
RA has an
Yeah.
iconic photo, isn't it? Your Instagram or your Twitter photo?
It's on my Instagram. If you go to it, yeah. Like we used to go backstage. Well, with the Boston guy used to have wrestling, they would go to the garage and we would be able to hang out there after. And we got pictures with him when I was like 9, 10 years old. And I mean, I got one picture. He's looking down at me, and I was like a 10-year-old kid. He's staring right into the camera. And he's smiling because Andre the Giant didn't smile all that much.
I have a bunch of wrestlers. I have pictures with Andre, Ric Flair.
Oh man,
from when I was in high school. I think I have one with Sergeant Slaughter from back in the day. A couple of others, but Andre's the big one.
The one that RA's got so cool because you were a kid and he was walking and he had the towel over his head, and RA, you said he just loved kids, right? And that's why he smiled. So you looked up and you snapped this photo with his what do you call those old cameras?
I'm gonna get you with the Kodak disc.
Yeah, the
I'm gonna get you. I'm not gonna miss.
And it's an iconic photo, buddy.
Yeah, it is good shit, man. It really was. Ken, I know you just mentioned your book again. I want to mention again for the listeners: A Mic for All Seasons: My 3 Decades Announcing the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB, and Olympics. What date in October does it drop?
Well, first of all, thanks for mentioning it and giving it a plug. One of the biggest challenges was the editing process. I wrote it myself, no ghostwriter, which I wanted to do. It was my voice, my stories, a lot of fun. My wife and kids were a big help in the editing process and coming up with some stories. One of my biggest challenges is the N's, the S's, and the T's in your name.
That's a lot. There's a lot going on, buddy.
See, exactly. 2 of each. That's easy to remember.
That's why I failed my SATs. I still don't know how to spell it.
Well, it's the SNTs, right? But you're in there a couple of times, and I had to actually Google you to make sure that I spelled it right. But it's A Mic for All Seasons. A lot of the stories I just told are in there. Most of them are in there. But it's really, it starts early life, broadcasting through high school and college, the Skipjacks, Capitals, onto Fox, Rangers, TNT, etc. But also, a lot of family stories, travel stories, list of all the analysts that I've worked with, stories about the Olympics, the pandemic, how we did a lot of the broadcast during that time. So I felt like I had a lot of stories to get out there, and hopefully everybody will enjoy it. But it's available on, as you mentioned, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target. Officially comes out October 10th. I received the first couple of boxes, so very exciting to open it up and see it for the first time. And like I said, a huge honor. Wayne Gretzky and Walt Clyde Frazier wrote the forwards for the book.
Oh, that's awesome. And as a guy, I used to watch the Albert Achievement Awards when your dad used to call Letterman back in the day.
He was on Letterman like 60 or 70 times. There you go, Biz.
Biz, I don't know if there's enough pictures in there for you, but
I like the purple tie too, and then the purple font. It's beautiful.
I'm going to take a picture of you right now holding up the book.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. That picture actually, long story.
Put it next to Taylor Swift in the camera phone, the camera log.
I'm going to do that and send it to you. Long story short, the picture was actually taken in Vegas, game 2 of the Cup final, right before that game. So it came right down to the wire as far as what photo we were going to use. So that's actually from Vegas with MSG superimposed in the background.
You got the TNT makeup girls working overtime. You look great in this one. Holy jumping.
Man.
Coming from you, that's a high compliment. TNT photographer as well.
But Kenny, you're such a joy to work with, buddy. Like, you're the nicest guy in the world. We can't thank you enough for your time. And like I said, it's just a joy, and congratulations on all your success. I can't wait to read the book, and all of you should pick it up. Kenny Albert, baby.
What a joy.
Thank
this is
you so
awesome,
much,
Kenny.
Kenny.
This is so great, buddy.
Have a great season.
You guys are the best. Biz, last week we were with Charles Barkley, and he was telling you, he's never been, more people came up to him to compliment him on you guys having him on than any other interview he's ever done, right?
Yeah, he said it to me twice. I don't even know what to say when he says that. He just, people love them on here. And he said that. Yeah, he said that twice to me, Whit, in RA. He goes, I've done a lot of interviews and a lot of podcasts, but I never get, people don't come up to me as much as they did when I did Spittin' Chicklets. How was my Charles Barkley impression?
I'm a witness. I was there when he said that, but you guys are the best. I love listening on plane rides throughout the year, and can't wait for hockey to get started. And thanks so much for having me on.
All right, before we go any further, here's a few words from our friends at Straight Talk. A new Straight Talk Wireless offering is now available where you can get a Walmart Plus membership included on select Straight Talk Wireless plans for free. Only Straight Talk Wireless gives you unlimited data, talk, and text, plus a Walmart Plus membership included on select plans for free. Some of the perks of Walmart Plus through select Straight Talk Wireless plans are free delivery from Walmart stores, free shipping, no order minimum, Paramount Plus membership, member prices on fuel so you get those gas savings. Straight Talk Wireless is available at Walmart and walmart.com. Huge thanks to Kenny for coming on us, man. What a great storyteller. Plus, I mean, anytime I got an A on any of my impressions is always a good day, Biz. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Pump the tires a little bit. I'm not talking about the warthog.
No, I'm saying it's the fucking year of the warthog. You can't miss right now.
All right.
You're going to start dating Taylor Swift next, aren't you?
Oh, I maybe should learn her music before I do.
All right, if you could date any celebrity like now or then.
They'll say an actress from the 40s. Dude.
Suzanne Summers, I bet.
She passed away, G. for Christ's sake.
Who was your girl growing up?
Back in the day.
Pamela Anderson from Baywatch?
No, that was kind of late. The first like chick poster I had was Christy Brinkley. The first like poster.
You know who
like,
was I remember being like, whoa, something's going on down there. You remember Yasmin Belief? Is that her name?
Yeah.
What do you mean something's going on down there?
Like
There's
there's
blood
something
in his
moving
pants.
and there's blood rushing.
Oh, I thought you meant maybe she had one. I'm like,
there's
what?
4 inches
She had a
rock
penis?
hard down there. Yasmin Bleeth, like midnight. Yeah, on the right.
Yeah.
She's Baywatch. Yeah, that's who she's.
That's
Oh my
Yasmin
God, that's
Bleeth?
her now?
Hey,
She looks
she looks
good.
great. Wow, she still got it.
Yeah. Christy Brinkley. And then honestly, like early Madonna videos, that's when I was like, whoa, what's going on down there? That's when I started getting
Madonna's
Well, she was-
Madonna's always kind of disgusted me a little bit. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Ever since she pounded Rodman,
She's like jacked too. Like I'm not a jacked woman guy. It's just kind of like I don't know.
I like girls with
I
a little
know you
muscle.
do. One time you showed me on Instagram, this is my style. She had 18
Like
abs.
I want their
and like,
clit so
I
big
was
it's
like-
almost like a penis.
I was like, oh my God, Biz. Like that's legit like a weightlifter. Like you
Oh, yeah.
want a straight up bodybuilder.
I like a little muscle
It's
tone.
disgusting.
Yeah.
You ever see her
Very
old,
healthy though.
her old penthouse photos that she did like a photo shoot?
Who?
Madonna. She did before she was a star, she did this photo shoot, like a nude shoot. And then someone found her when she was a superstar. She looked like the friggin' Amazon rainforest, like hair on her arms, big old 70s bush and everything business.
Really?
Yeah.
I think the bushes are coming back now.
You
I
think?
think
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think they should have.
Well, because like girls were lasering it off.
So
and
you're
then
in the game. Are you seeing bushes in the wild?
I mean,
I'm not going to get into the bushes in the wild.
Okay.
I'd rather talk about snorting
Yeah.
off of RA's tits
and figure size splits, but you don't want to talk about that.
God, who is Carmen Electra?
Oh my God.
She's still got it.
She had a poster like washing a car, like the bubbles everywhere. And by the way, I was never even remotely close to allowed to have a poster of a girl in my room. Like,
So I
had
had a Fox magazine, which was like Dirty Mag.
like
and I had
Dirtier Than
these-
Hustler.
I had this like little single bed at my parents' house where the drawers on the bottom, you could pull them out. So I would hide it. Like I would pull the drawer out and I had the one magazine for forever. I forget who the girl on the cover was. I think maybe it was Sylvia Saint, but, and it wasn't a Playboy. It wasn't like an article type magazine.
Classy.
It was like
Classy magazine.
they had one there would always be like a featured girl, and then there would be like the cum dart, like the they'd actually have the board.
They'd have your target.
They'd have I never used it.
Yeah, you didn't.
I never.
By the way, it's so underrated that RA had a subscription to Playboy when he was 12 years old. That's one of the crazier Spit and Chicklets
That
facts. I couldn't put a poster
he
up
was-
my room,
what's
and he had a
crazier
subscription to
is
Playboy.
when we
Stealing
talked about
bikes
it, he's
like
like,
that.
"That's not that crazy."
Yeah, he was like, "What do you mean?"
And then what was even crazier was that his mom signed it up.
No,
For him.
actually, no.
Like maybe the CDs you used to buy. Remember, you used to get 7 for $1,
Columbia
and then you
House.
had to buy a certain amount every month over month. No, you got signed up for the Playboy subscription by your mom.
No, it was Publishers Clearinghouse. Remember that? Oh, you might have already won
Yes.
$20 million. So
Yeah.
for some reason, I got one in the mail when I was like 13 or 14, and you had to subscribe to 2 magazines. So I did Sports Illustrated and Playboy. You know, they must have thought I was an adult. My mother, she didn't like sign me up. She was fine with it though. Like,
But what happened when she got the mail? And
She was like okay with it. She's like, just don't bring it to school, whatever. Because
just don't hit the
like,
target in the living
like
room.
my stepfather bought one. She would like.
I don't
my
think
mother would
Playboy
legit
had the
read it.
target.
No, like
the other one I've said is I just threw myself around the room to the old music video "Wicked Game" by Chris Isaac.
Oh,
and
Chris
I've
Isaac.
said many times in the pod that I ended up watching on pop-up video on VH1 that he was actually penetrating and having sex during the shoot of the video on a palm tree. You tell me right now if you can YouTube this music video and
Can you
not
pull it up, G?
and not dummy yourself to this beautiful, beautiful woman. Chris Isaac was a stallion as well.
So I was a big BET beater. I'd crank myself off to
Oh,
the
really?
BET. Yeah. Because like back
Like
then,
the Nicki Minaj's before Nicki Minaj's?
no, it was still Dre had some thoughts in him, but I want to say one of the Saint Lunatics videos with Nelly had the best girls where you would get slow-mos of them where like the big juicy arses would get me going. I think we've spent
fast forward to
yeah,
this
I think
girl.
we've
Look
spent
at that woman. I mean,
This is who?
look at her.
Oh, this is who?
This is Chris Isaac, Wicked Game. This is how I was just dummying myself at a very
guy's
young
a bit of a
age.
man missile too.
Yeah, that's Chris Isaac, dude. The guy could sing. I don't even think this is his song.
This
Isn't
is
this a
soft
remake?
porn.
Well, yeah, apparently when you see right there, they were penetrating.
Oh.
That's what pop-up video on VH1 said. That's all I'm saying. But what a beautiful young woman and what a handsome young lad. But also
What a video! It's imagine you're the artist. You're like, all right, here's the video. Get me the hottest Superman woman on the planet, and she's gonna sit on my lap while I have a full-fledged rocket up her vagina, and we're gonna hit the record button on a palm tree.
yeah, there you go.
George,
And two good-looking people, they might just be like, let's just go for this.
Let's do it.
George
She looks
Michael.
Euro too.
George Michael had 4 supermodels in that Freedom video back in the day.
So was he bisexual?
George,
Yeah.
I don't know if he was down
just
with the
did
ladies or
everything.
not,
Is
but
that the one
he
who got
definitely liked
sucked
the
off in a
fellas.
stall in public, and then people try to make a big deal
I
out of
believe
it?
that was him. Yeah. R.I.P. He was a great artist.
I remember a video,
Unbelievable.
like, a more recent video. This is probably 20 years ago. Do you remember Petey Pablo? That song, like Croatia, Rwanda. He's listing all the girls' names.
Oh
There's
yeah.
a lot of sexy BET ones for you in that one.
Oh yeah.
So check that one, Petey Pablo.
One last one. You mentioned Pasha's bedroom. Like that, we put that picture of you sleeping in his bedroom. Someone goes, "Is that Bert and Ernie's bedroom from Sesame Street?"
I know.
The 2 wooden twin beds.
How about memes putting the other twin bed and putting Barry, the big guy, in the
Barry,
bed?
our boy
Oh,
Barry.
yeah, someone goes, "Biz does BBC."
Oh, that's so because the name of the mockumentary was called Biz Does BC.
Pasha's bedroom was shit, though, huh?
Awful. Awful.
Jesus, Posh.
Awful.
Seriously, you look like my grandparents' bedroom in the 40s when they used to sleep in separate beds.
Some of you people are like, who's Barry? Barry was this, I think it was
Yeah.
during COVID, Barry.
Everyone
really
knows
took
Barry.
off.
Everyone knows Barry
He was
now.
a porn star who had a huge rope, and there was the messages like, hey, check out what somebody's saying about you online, and you would click it. Next thing you know, it was Barry's hog staring you
It
in the
was
face.
really like COVID. Like, look what's locked down now. And you click on it, think the big news. And just Barry.
All right.
Just you needed a chuckle during those dark days.
Oh, absolutely.
Nothing like a dark
enough.
hammer to turn around your dark day.
For some reason, a 6-year-old story on CBS News went viral last week. Immediately heated up the Chicklets text thread once again. Researcher Randall Bell studied the habits of the rich and found that if you make your bed each morning, you are 206% more likely to become a millionaire.
So, all right, you were disgusted at this in the group chat. I would assume you're not a bed maker.
I'm a sack
You
of broken
think?
eggs. I always have an unmade bed. Yeah, man. That's bullshit, dude. Bullshit. Like
The
making your bed.
stat is bullshit. All right.
Right.
I agree. Like
Yeah.
you're more likely to be a millionaire making your bed. At the same time, I responded. I said, I don't agree with that at all. That seems ridiculous. It seems made up. It seems to make no sense. At the same time, you're a piece of trash if you don't make your bed. And I think it's more about it's starting the day off the right way.
Yeah.
It's starting the day off with a little win, a little W, a little bit of success. All right, my bed's made. I'm ready to go. And more than anything, it's about when you get back home and you get back to going to bed that night. It's not an unmade, unkept, clothes everywhere bed. You're looking at a nice made bed, a nice clean room. Now, granted, since I'm married, I don't make the bed, but my wife does. but before I was married, I made my bed all the time. There was a couple days I didn't, but I specifically remember brushing my teeth and being like, oh, I don't want to make my bed. But that's the early victory of the day. That leads to success. I believe Merle said Barry Trotz is a big time make the bed in the morning guy. And it's one thing where it's
You
just
think
like,
he asks guys when he gets in first meeting, instead of asking for the phone, he asks for, hey, you make the bed?
he
No,
like
you're
found
on
out, he
waivers.
finds out Yossi doesn't make his bed, he trades him.
Yeah.
So I think that for me, it's like start the day off the right way. And I think a lot of people who don't make their bed, I think those same people have clothes everywhere. They have, because you're not hanging up your clothes, putting everything away, and then not making the bed.
They're not
It's
washing
one
the
of
sheets either. They're not washing the sheets.
Okay, so wait, I think you're a genius in the marriage category because you've
Oh,
seen,
really? Yeah. Let's bring my wife on and ask her that question.
No, but in a sense of you've seemed to establish very smart rules. Whereas you establish the golf thing where you're like, hey, if you're going to take away from my golf, like I'm not going to be happy, and then you're not going to be happy. Another thing is yesterday you couldn't do the interview live with Dahlman because you had family photos, and I'm like, oh. Like the wives love the family photos, and where it goes, oh no, 15 minutes, we're in and out. So it's
well, that's the deal I made. I said, listen, we'll do family photos.
The deals he makes are incredible.
Did you also cut a deal on the bed making?
No, she's just like very like adamant about stuff like that. And like when I leave clothes everywhere, she's like, pick up your clothes. And it's one of those things where like I expect things from her as my wife, and she expects things as her husband. Like, don't leave the room.
You should be a fucking NHL GM with the deals.
A disgusting mess. But in terms of the family photos, Biz, what we were laughing about was that you were like, those things suck. Like I had to do them. Like, if you're doing professional photos, if they aren't for like your wedding or engagement without kids, you're crazy. You're absolutely nuts. Like we have kids. These are Christmas card pictures. But I go, listen, I'll drive 40 minutes, but 15 minutes. We took 190 photos in 15 minutes in 4 different locations around this little park. So I'll tell you right now, if you're going to do family photos, tell your wife you can save money, you can save time, and you can keep happiness and peace in your life. 15-minute photos are all you need. That's all you need to get done. It takes quick. It's the kids, by the way. I mean, try wrangling in Wyatt Whitney for pictures. The kid's an absolute lunatic. So once I tell him 15 minutes and you get a lollipop after, okay, Dad, okay.
Dials it on.
And he dialed it in. He's fixing his hair on his own. He turns 3 November 16th. And I'm like, there we go. And when we finished, I said, how good was that? And she said, it's unbelievable. It was a great idea, babe. All we did need was 15 minutes. So it's one of those things where
that's what I'm saying, dude.
Guy should be an NHL GM.
No, hey,
I don't know about that.
No, wait, RA's got the grind my gears. You need tips for husbands. We need a tips for husbands segment, man. Negotiating the bed making, the amount of family trips you're going on. Like, you're just dialed.
I know, but I feel like my situation is a little different.
300 rounds a year.
No, I don't, dude. I do not anymore. I do not play that
play
much
more
golf
than
anymore.
guys on the
but it's
PGA.
not because of her. It's
You
because
play more golf than Koepka.
Dude, my rounds of golf is severely down. Let me tell you, it doesn't make me happy. And it's just one of those things. Like the kids get older. It's easy to play golf when your kids are real young. Ryder turns 6 end of November. Like there's just more stuff going on. Weekends after your kid is like 5, you're done. You're absolutely done. So I think that my situation is a little different in the fact that I had all the money. So you're able to kind of set some boundaries at the beginning. But if you're in a relationship where it's 50-50, or especially if your wife's making more than you, like it doesn't really work like it is for me. So I think that
Kevin Fellerline didn't care.
Yeah, he worked. What a deal maker that guy was.
Yeah, he
saw that she was going to go completely cuckoo at the end.
Yeah.
Poor Brittany.
Yeah.
But I think that you just want to be open and honest when you meet someone. That's my biggest advice. Tell them what you're into, what you can live with, and what you can live without. And that way, moving forward, there are no surprises. There are no crazy things popping up, and you're able to live a life where she knows what you expect and you know what she expects.
I didn't have Britney Spears fans coming after our podcast on my bingo card, but you might have just.
Marriage is hard fucking work. RA will tell you. And I ain't trying to sit here and preach. You have to work hard to have a successful marriage. It is legitimately one of those things where once you get like when I get lazy and when I start not doing things I promised I'd be doing around the house, you just all of a sudden the tension rises and you realize I haven't been carrying my weight. So it's hard work. It is what it is.
It is. It's very, I mean, any relationship, right?
100%.
Going back to the bed making, I believe that is the case, but because it establishes discipline, and I find people that are it's not about doing things when you feel like doing them. People who are very regimented, and it starts with just a little win, as you mentioned, in the morning like that. I guarantee you more millionaires than not make their bed.
Well, the big time millionaires have people making their bed for them in terms of like housekeepers and stuff. But the other thing is, I just love getting into a made bed. It's like, for some reason, getting into bed unmade, it doesn't feel the same. So that's my final word on the bed making.
Yeah.
My early victory is just getting up, waking up in the morning. That's my early victory.
Well, you wake up in the afternoon, so I guess that's a win no matter what time
so
it
you're
is.
saying when Breeze away, you make the bed when Breeze away?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Take your word on that one.
I think he just undercover called
I don't
you a
put all
liar.
the pillows on. We have 14
Oh, God.
pillows, which is a
Women be
joke.
loving
So I don't
pillows,
put.
man.
I put the 2 pillows that you sleep on. So I don't get the rest of the whole look, which is so dumb. But
The star pillow, the lumber spine pillow.
no, it's just all like the pillows for like
Whatever.
look, and it's like nobody's even in there. So who cares?
Yeah, exactly. The NHL, man, sometimes they can't get out of their own way. For reasons known only to them, the NHL decided to step in shit and ban the rainbow color tape known as Pride tape. There are no reports of anybody clamoring to get rid of it. The league just come out of nowhere and said they don't want to make it available. It's too much of a distraction. I don't get what they mean by that. This has been the rule since, I don't know, at least 2015. Adhesive tape of any color may be wrapped around the stick at any place for the purpose of reinforcement or to improve control of the puck. So they're just kind of coming in like they did with Sean Avery in the playoffs. They're just going to change their own rule. Like, what the fuck are they thinking? Like, just let these guys wear it if a team has that designated night. It's just they step in shit once again. And I think they're hypocrites because all they talk about is inclusive and hockey's for everyone. And then they do something like this and it sends the wrong message to the people that they're trying to send a good message.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, some people listening are like, I don't even want to fucking hear about this. Like, I just want to watch sports. I think this has a lot to do with how it all went down last year when a few members of, or at least one of the Philadelphia Flyers, I think it was Provorov. He didn't want to wear the Pride jersey because it's not in his faith as far as same-sex marriage. Let me reiterate, and we've said this a million times. If you're a guy and you want to marry a guy, if you're a guy and you want to be a girl, we are here to support anything that you want to be on the Spit and Chicklets podcast. Well, at least me. Can we all agree that?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
So this didn't need to be kicked up. They could have just let this go and let the tape thing be a thing. But I feel like they tried to get ahead of it and they made a shitstorm within their own stuff going on. The tape now situation to take it away is just it's idiocy because you can even hear some of these players saying like, well, I want to do that. So I think there's a big portion of people where they just want to go to sports to watch sports and not have to talk about any of this stuff. And that's where I think that most people lie with their opinion on everything. No?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think we all just want to watch the game, but this is a thing for the last several years with the league. And again, they've been, hockey's for everyone. They've been like beating that drum, and then they turn around and just say, "Oh, you can't wear this tape." I think some players are going to come out and just wear it some game willy nilly.
Didn't Lawton already say he's going to?
Said he's gonna.
Well, it's just like the jersey thing was an absolute clusterfuck last season, okay? So they make the announcement, and obviously there was a bunch of noise and a bunch of chatter. How are you doing this? It was over. It was all over. Like the fact that it was done. Like if they were going to do this, do it then with the jerseys, deal with all the backlash then. They just come out of nowhere right as the season's beginning when there was just no need to mention anything at all. It was just ridiculous timing. But I'm going to go to the fact of the real issue with the NHL for me right now. This fucking app is something else. I'll tell you, they decided to redo their app this summer. It is the worst app on the App Store. I looked the other day.
I designed it.
It looks like you designed it and then did the coding for it as well. Right after hanging out with RA and his ski titties. I'll tell you this though. I looked every single game right now. It says whatever the score is, which isn't always correct. All the goals are it's the same goal scorer, the same assist guy. Every game, it's broken. And like, if you're gonna redo the app, actually was okay before. I don't remember like having complaints about it like this. So you're going to redo it, you're going to drop it, and it doesn't even work. It's unbelievable how they're able to just like get in their own way constantly, because now I'm not even using it. I got to go to the score because you can't even find out what's going on.
The website, they've changed the website as well, and that's where I go. I don't even use the app. I feel like the website sometimes it's not even working, and some of the same problems you mentioned.
Dude,
they're always changing it every 2-3 years, where you finally get used to it, and then boom, it's different again. So
the ESPN app is incredible, though. I mean, I just go there because you can watch the games now too if you have ESPN Plus on there.
So on the new NHL app, you can't even go in on the app and see like the time on ice and stuff. And last year you could. It's crazy. They've somehow made their product that much worse with an improved, in quotations, app. It's unbelievable. Like no other league right now has an app that doesn't work.
In on the main page, like if you click on like certain goalie stats, they have like their record, but they don't have the losses on there. It's like how many games they played, their wins, and it's like they're missing one of the main stats on there. And earlier they didn't have like, I think it was goals against or save percentage. It was like those are the fucking main things people looking for, and they didn't have them on certain players. It is a clusterfuck. When I agree with you on that.
It's just crazy.
Yeah,
brutal. By the way, we've talked about the banana tits. Shout out Melinda Dillon, who played Suzanne Hanrahan. She passed away last year.
Oh.
We gotta give her a shout out. She was the mother in A Christmas Story too, Biz.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
Love that movie.
Yeah, great stuff. Yeah,
Another thing I
Counter.
forgot to bring up just quickly, Carolina, great win in LA to start the year. Then they lose to the Ducks, but something to keep an eye on. What's his? I'm blanking out. He played on the Bruins last year. The D-man, big signing.
Dmitry Orlov.
Orlov, who was the best player for the Bruins in the playoffs and maybe one of their best players after he came over at the deadline. He's -7 in 2 games and playing 15 minutes a game. So I don't know. Let's see where that goes. Who knows if Brind'Amour saw him in camp and wasn't overly impressed, but just a stat that kind of popped out right away.
Well, the one thing about them is they also have so many D to snap it around to, and you can. I mean, I remember Thomas Caberlet when he was playing for the Leafs. He was getting 25, 26 minutes a night, and then he got traded over to the Bees.
Yep.
And all of a sudden he was playing in that 17, 18 minute range where you're not used to getting your reps and getting it snapped around, and all of a sudden the game declines quick to the point where I want to even say during that playoff run he might even been a healthy scratch.
Yeah, I think he
where
was.
they traded like a couple first rounders for him. So for a defenseman in that perspective of going from a high number of minutes to now all of a sudden where you might get even lost, it just feels like the puck feels heavier. You're not making the right reads. You're not playing with that anticipation you once did. So that can become difficult. But they're loaded on the back end, and that's not an ideal situation, especially for the amount of money you're paying them. And on top of that, you got D'Angelo back in the mix too. So
7.75 for this year and next year.
I mean, he was so good.
It's a lot of dough.
He's a player. It's just kind of odd to see a start like that.
Yeah.
Your old team, the Penguins, they lost their first game, then they won 2 games in a row, 4-0 over the Caps, 5-2 over the Flames. Gino had 6 points in those 2 games, but Sid, longest tenured captain now at 18 years, 18 consecutive seasons averaging a point per game, only one guy with more, Wayno at 19. But here's the record these guys have. Sid, Gino, and Chris Letang hold the North American record for longest teammate trio with 18 seasons together. No 3 guys have ever had this many seasons
No
together
way.
in any North American
and they're
sport.
still bringing it. Gino's off to the hot start.
Riley Smith looks good.
Riley Smith looks great. Listen, I know Dubas is a Leafs traitor, and some of you are like, oh, they fired him. Shut up. He stabbed him in the back. What he has done in the offseason to revamp this lineup is nothing short of a miracle with the fucking tricks that he was able to get Carlson over with and make all the trades and get rid of cap situation, bring over Riley Smith. He had the connection to Achari, bringing him over to the Leafs last year at the deadline. So it seems like that bottom 6 has that sandpaper that they needed, that they were missing last year. The top guns are going. Gensel's playing for a contract right now, and he was actually supposed to miss the first 5 games of the year. Rush back to get back with that ankle injury. And the Nedeljkovic looked great in the game that he was thrown into. Jari looked great in game 2. If Jari can get back to 2 years ago when they before he got hurt, when they lost to the New York Rangers in playoffs, if they can all get together, get to that place, they are very much a Stanley Cup contender in my opinion.
It's a lot of ifs.
Buddy, but hey, to revamp the lineup the way that they did, if you're a Pittsburgh Penguin fan, you have to be thrilled about what you're seeing so far and the fact that they look like a rejuvenated team.
I saw some tweet going around. I wish I knew who it was from, or maybe it was on Instagram. Like, gotta love Crosby. He's still wearing his Rimouski Oceanic jacket from 20 years ago. The guy is just a machine. So he looks great off the bat. And I think Gino said when asked about his start, yeah, I wish season ended tomorrow and I win the Hart Trophy.
Yeah.
A lot of rookies making news on the past week. Gee, we got a great quote from Paul Maurice. Want to run that one?
A few players have the opportunity to make their NHL debut. What's the biggest key in managing some of the emotions and pressure?
Yeah, I don't want them to. I want them to be nervous. Like they get a standard speech, but it's true. You can win 5 Stanley Cups, 5 Hart Trophies. You can be in the Hall of Fame, but you only ever get one first game in the NHL, and that's not your game actually. It's mom and dad's game, and all the volunteer coaches that helped you, teachers, everybody. So when they come to the rink, I tell them, I really don't care how you play tonight. I want you to be nervous for the national anthem, be overwhelmed, take it all in, but do it with a smile on your face and have some fun because you only ever get one of these days.
This quote is so cool. I had a bunch of people send it to me, and right away, it definitely like hits you hard as a player because it's so true. Like I'll never forget my first game. I'll never forget the feeling of getting called up. For me, warm-ups, my parents came down to the glass. I just got to see them and like just a wordless thank you. I can't believe this is happening. And it was awesome. And Paul Maurice has always been an unreal quote. He's very well-spoken, and he delivered the perfect one there and in describing it. No matter what you accomplish, it's all about remembering and the memory of your first game and your dream coming true.
He's so eloquent. Every time he's asked a question, I mean, it was on display during that cup run last year, but how does he find the right words every goddamn time?
Oh, he's been doing this for a long time.
He's a fucking poet.
He could run for president. You know, he's one of those type of guys.
He wasn't born in America.
He could sell me a fucking Ponzi scheme in 4 minutes.
Oh, yeah, but so could the guy on the street corner on Newbury Street.
Well, LA King rookie Alex Laferriere, his family's certainly going to remember it. They went fucking nuts, that scrap. Who'd he fight? Oh, Logan O'Connor. Did you see an absolute UFC takedown? That family was going bananas. And he went to fucking Harvard, too. Wait, you don't usually see too many Harvard guys.
I think it was Colby Armstrong who texted to our group chat that he thinks he mouthed to the guy in the box that he fought. He goes, that was my first fight ever. I mean, chances are if he went to Harvard, he wasn't scrapping there. And he's from New Jersey, so you could tell his family are used to maybe seeing some scraps outside the bars there at the dirty South Shore.
Let's go fuck up some smart kids. Wasn't the only rookie to drop. Johnny Beecher, a Bruins rookie, he fought Chicago's Jason Dickinson. A little hit. Who did he hit from behind? I forget the guy's name, but the Dickinson come over. Nice little scrap. He did it right for himself, NG.
Yeah, I mean, I think that fourth line in general has looked awesome. And I was talking to Biz about this last night where I was told that when Lucic came in this offseason in training camp, they've made such an effort to be a harder team to play against and just being real sons of bitches out front.
They got to be the big bad Bruins.
Exactly. And you look at a guy like Brandon Carlo, his game it's not fully changed, but he is a motherfucker to play against this year. You said he laid out Taylor Hall. He's just out front. He's just a bastard to play against. And back to the fourth line, Lauko, Lucic, and Beecher. It's just life. Every game so far, they've been the best line.
Yeah, and I mean, Frederick, we talked about him earlier too. He's got some piss and vinegar. You know, Marchand's competing his bag off every night. So, so far, how have you guys felt about the Zacha and Coyle experiment 1-2 punch? Oh, and we didn't. That rookie kid you mentioned. How about that fucking play?
Poitras,
he made that
incredible.
Poitras.
Did we get the how do we say his name?
Poitras.
It's Poitras.
Okay, so I wish I liked Poitras, but it's
same here. You said it.
I got it right from the horse's mouth.
Poitras.
Poitras, yeah.
Poitras.
No, what? You're saying different things.
Poitras. Well,
Yeah.
Poitras.
Poitras.
Yeah, it's in my head now. Yeah,
Poitras.
not Poitras. It's
Regardless,
Poitras.
practice lines today.
Just remember pot. All right,
I do.
pot.
He doesn't forget that.
So he's been playing on that third line with Frederick and Geeky, but as of today, they bumped him up to second line. Now he's playing alongside Brad Marchand. So he played with Marchand all preseason, and you could tell after every shift, Marchand's coaching him up what to do. I love them playing together.
Yeah,
I love that.
Oh, hey, I mean, sometimes they get these sneaky picks. They've been criticized in the past about some of their drafts,
Yeah, it's been
especially
tough.
the one when they had the three first rounders where they whiffed on everything. Or was
They
the
got
Brus?
DeBrus.
The Brus. I guess they didn't whiff on all of them, but they missed on Matty Barzell. But this kid's got a lacrosse background too. So as far as body position, the way he's able to protect the puck and make plays and also get to the dirty areas and take that punishment, people who have lacrosse backgrounds, they're used to the getting hacked and whacked. So that's a good thing where I wouldn't say he's the biggest guy, but as long as you're able to take punishment and protect the puck and go to those hard areas, that's all I fucking care about.
Marchand compared him to Mitch Marner.
So they dropped, really?
Yeah.
So they dropped Coyle to third line?
Coyle is now in third line.
He's a third, Coyle is
he's a great third line
he's
center.
an incredible third line center. Just like Adam Lowry is in Winnipeg, like that type of player.
Oh, did you see that highlight of the bench? Josh Morrissey, Lowry loses his stick and he's kicking the puck up to himself, and Josh Morrissey hands his over on a 2-on-1 rush. It's half the size of Lowry's stick, and he's bending over and then throws a backhand sauce over. I forget who it was, but it was a cool highlight. Usually it's the trainer, how good they are on their toes, but it was Morrissey who handed it over. It was pretty cool.
That reminds me of a couple of times like Ray Whitney just being like, "You fucking idiot," where like a righty would lose his stick and I'd be over the boards like, "Here, take mine." And yeah, even worse, they would ask me sometimes like what guys on my line, what way they shot, and I wouldn't be able to tell them.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I was pathetic.
That's tough.
Where some guys, I would say that, well, Jans was obviously
you can do that, can't you? Can't you name every?
Jans he could tell you what fucking color tape they use and what their curve was. And
really,
when they started quizzing me, guys on the team, like I think they asked me, like, I bet he doesn't even know what the way like Chip Chara shoots. And I kind of froze up, and he's like, "You don't know which way he shoots." So they started grilling me, every guy on the team, and I'm like, I don't know. They were like, "You're fucking pathetic. No wonder you never put it on the tape." But yeah, Wiz would give me shit about handing the righty a lefty when they lost their stick on the bench. At least I was alert. Come on, Wiz.
Columbus opened the season on Adam Fantilli's birthday, and did you see that video? They had his parents, his brother,
nice,
real sweet.
Tough not to get emotional for him watching that. His brother and his parents. It just that was really cool. I think he at the end of it said thank you to whoever did it from Columbus. That was awesome
it was
video.
Babcock. That's why he was looking through his phone. That's where he was getting all the clips.
Yeah, it's too long to play here, but if you can check it out, by all means do so. He got a text from Wayno too, saying good luck, happy birthday, right?
Yeah,
that was good stuff.
What's the first text from Wayne Gretzky like when you see that? Like, hey, it's Wayne Gretzky. Like, what are you feeling when you get that?
You feel like the coolest person ever, and the best thing is he FaceTimes me from time to time now, and he's just, I don't know, it's just fucking cool.
Like you talking about your summer when you're like, yeah, I got to go visit Wayno for a couple days up in Gaza. Like just that one sentence.
Well, it was a little awkward when
thing.
he caught me sniffing his underwear in his underwear drawer up at You know what the hell are you doing in there, Biz? Like, Wayne, I love you, man. I just want to smell.
Biz is trying on his cup rings.
Yeah. He comes in, I'm in his boxers, I got his fucking cup rings on.
Wearing the old Jofa.
I got
it's like when Borelli was in
robe.
the Islanders locker room and he was trying on Tavares' shoes and then he walked in.
I got his Gucci flip-flops and robe on.
Fantilli had an assist his first game, played 13 minutes, 40 seconds, 5 out of 10 on faceoffs, 2 shots, but looked good out there that first game. I'm not sure how much you saw of it, but did you see the end of that game? Philly covered the puck line with 0.1 seconds left.
Did you have it?
You must.
No, I didn't. I didn't have it, but you would have thought it was. I mean, I'm just over the moon anytime that happens. Whoever has it, but
yeah,
I was connecting. It was like shoot it, because he had the whole fucking zone to himself. 0.1 seconds left. If he didn't miss that, man,
he's looked great. And shout out to Couturier. He spent a lot of time not playing, and he's back in. He looks a little bit thinner too, so he's moving around pretty decent for a guy who's been dealing with some back issues. And I mean, buddy, like I would say for a good 3-4 years there, one of the best 200-foot game centers in the league.
Yeah.
Did he win a Selke?
If he didn't win one, he's been up for it.
He's a guy. I think 1 year he put up 100 points, and he's a motherfucker to play against.
Oh, he's never had 100 points.
No, never had 100 points.
Am I out of my mind here?
Yeah.
I was going
the most
good
he ever had was 76.
Fuck me. I was going good with the numbers too.
I mean, last 2 years though. Last year only 29 games played. The year before that only 45 games.
Was he over a point a game that year when he had 76?
No, he's never been over.
Damn it, Biz. Come on.
When Columbus played the Rangers, they got a nice little tribute for Jonathan Quick.
Hilarious.
Did you see that? Oh my God.
His reaction, the fact that they panned to the bench and showed his face. So everybody who doesn't know the story, got traded there last year at the deadline for 24 hours?
If that.
If that. And they gave him a little tribute video, trolled themselves, and then right on the Jumbotron right after, panned down to him on the bench, and he was losing it. So that's the stuff right there.
Yeah, pretty
That's
good
the
stuff.
shit.
The Flames held an emotional tribute to Chris Snow before their 5-3 win over the Jets to open the season. His wife Kelsey dropped a ceremonial face-off puck, and son Cohen had fist bumps for all the boys going out and coming back after the game. Just a real nice tribute to Chris. We talked about him last episode. Hopefully the family's doing okay with what they've dealt with. In the game itself, Markstrom versus Hellebuck. What a great goalie battle that was. Both guys, I think both those guys had a little something to prove for different reasons. Markstrom had an off year last year. Hellebuck with the new contract. Yep. Entertaining game, but I think the real battle between Winnipeg and Calgary last week was in the AHL. Did you see that scrap?
Oh my God.
That was old school.
Manitoba's Jeffrey Veal, Calgary's Alex Gallant. Talk about turning back the clock, just throwing fucking straight up bombs for fucking 3 minutes.
I don't punch in the face contest.
I don't know the kid for it's Manitoba Moose, right? Veal?
Yeah, Jeffrey Veal, yep.
I don't know him. Obviously, he can fucking chuck them, but I fought that Gallant twice, and
oh really?
They're brothers. I fought both of them. One of them was playing for Bridgeport one time. I got a funny story about that too. So if you fought 2 times, a certain amount of times you would get a game suspension. So we fought the one time, and I think he kind of lost his edge. So he wanted to fight me again. And I was like, oh God, fuck, this guy's so tough as nails. And then I found out the next day he got to go fishing with his buddies because he got suspended because he'd hit the 2 fights in one game so many times.
So it wasn't about falling. He's like, I just want to get suspended.
So he got sussied. So we had a 3-3, and then we played them on the Saturday, Sunday. So Sunday's game, he was off fishing with his buddies. He's like, buddy, thank you so much. I get the day off. But
you're like ice in your eye. You're like, no problem.
But I want to say they're brothers or cousins. And then this one that you just fought for Calgary's farm team, he was playing with the San Jose Barracuda. But these guys, pound for pound, are just nail guns. They just go
Western boys.
They're from. I want to say they're from PEI. They're from out east, aren't they? Look at Alex Gallant. I want to say they're from the same place as the coach Gallant. And there might even be some relation there as well. So these 2 guys, I was actually shocked to see the fact
Summerside PE.
PEI.
Yeah.
So these guys are just from the Rock.
Related to Gerard.
It has to be related to Gerard Gallant, and these guys are just nail guns. So the fact that they're still doing it, shout out to them.
And also like the whole like fighting out of hockey thing, that was probably one of our most like not viral, but like liked tweets. Do you see how much engagement that had?
50,000 likes.
It just shows like people just love it. They love they eat it up.
We got a special guest for Grind My Gears this week. Grind My Gears always brought to you by BigDealBrewing.com/finder. And Biz, you're our special guest, Grind My Gears this week. And let's see, what was you got tuned up for us?
Oh, I'm glad you remind me of this. Jada Pinkett Smith grinds my
I was thinking of talking about
gears,
but
bro.
Will Smith might be even worse.
No.
Do something, Will.
Yeah.
Do something.
He did. He fucking smacked Chris Rock to defend her because she was disgusted with Chris Rock's comment. So he goes up there and tries to be Lance Romance to all of a sudden months later after this guy gets sussied from the academy. And she goes on to say, we've been separated. He's not even my husband. She fucking throws her husband under the bus.
She's a piece of
She's
shit.
a piece of shit.
She goes, I don't even know why he said wife.
Why is she even getting interviewed for these podcasts? If it wasn't for Will Smith and the fact that she sucked the dick off of Tupac's torso way back when
they
he
were
was
they were soulmates, she said too.
Bullshit, dude.
That's what she said.
Bullshit. She also said that she was slinging rock back in the day. She said that Tupac proposed to her when he was behind bars in prison for whatever he was in prison for. She is the fucking worst. She grinds my gears. The fact that these quotes are still coming out and she's still being interviewed. Why is she famous? She's famous for marrying Will Smith. Am I out of line here?
No, I just can't believe Will Smith. Like Will Smith, maybe not now. He was an A-list celebrity superstar actor, and he is getting walked on.
I mean, she wasn't Nutty Professor. That movie still slaps. Sherman ain't never had no relation.
Yeah, but
no, I can't. Listen,
Will's got to just step up and say something.
Well, he's so in deep now. He's got to cut her half of what he's worth, and he's made all the dough. What do you think Will Smith's net worth is? Net worth?
Got to be a couple hundred.
Oh, easily. But like any marriage, you never know what goes on behind closed doors. You take a Hollywood marriage, that's times 100, man. There's it's a lot of PR bullshit. Like fucking,
I know. No matter what's going on behind closed doors and the rumors of Will Smith, those are. But it's like
It's the respect
But yeah,
thing.
you're
Yeah.
shriveling this
Shriveling
guy
him.
nonstop. You think after he slapped some dude in your honor that you wouldn't say, I don't even know why he called me my wife up on stage. It's funny you brought that up because I was reading an article about basically all the ways she's dissed on him over the past year and a half. It's like, buddy, stand up for yourself.
The best quote I read was everything I've learned about this lady and their family has been against my own will. It's all
Yeah, it's just being forced.
no
down
no
your
pun
throat.
intended. No pun
Attaboy,
intended.
Biz. You're feeling it.
welcome to Earth.
I don't get it.
Independence Day.
Oh,
suck
okay.
as the fucking alien.
Yeah, I don't remember. that.
350 million is Will Smith's net worth.
And buddy, to stroke a check for half of that would be very difficult. So I guess you just take the onslaught and you fucking
When was
learn
the
to make
last
the bet.
movie Will Smith was in?
He had something. He had a real bad one recently, but he's like, dude, he's weird. He'll do like an absolute fucking dud, and then he'll have like some Oscar-worthy thing.
When was his last
King,
Oscar?
was it King Richard, the one he won the Oscar for?
He was actually great. That was a
phenomenal.
good movie.
Well, that was your debut, Grind My Gears, brought to you by BigDealBrewing.com.
Pretty good one.
Real good.
Awesome.
Real good. You
Awesome
brought
one.
the
No,
thunder.
I mean, that's pretty much wrapping up the end of the show, boys, unless you have any final thoughts you want to share before we go get some vittles before we do our meeting.
I had something in my notes, and it was a story that you brought up, and you told me to remind you to tell because I'd never heard the full story, but it was with you and Max Talbot, and you were going to meet your parents or at least just your dad for dinner, and he wore this sweater, and you.
No, it was my buddies were in town, and we went to Morton's. And Talbot had a sweatshirt on that the hood said "fuck you." I don't know why you thought of that.
I don't know. I had it written down on my
buddies
notes.
are like, look at his hoodie. It's unbelievable. Yeah, a big giant "fuck you" on the hoodie.
I guess it was a lot better in my head.
One last thing is there should be an announcement for Game Notes very, very soon.
So
That-
Merle's
that
an
is-
army train.
That is coming soon.
Oh, and then also we did mention the Bruins. I want to shout out my boys, Brian Yandel and Mike Motto, the Rink Shrinks. They had on Patrice Bergeron.
legends.
We're hoping at some point to get Bergeron on, but those two guys are Brian's one of my closest friends. Mott's is the absolute man. So check that out because it was an unreal interview. Bergeron goes through his life and hopefully we get him on too. But shout out the Rink Shrinks and those two for getting Patrice on.
I ran into Timmy Thomas too, the little recruiting at the guy the other night too. Yeah,
That would be awesome.